There we go. How are we sounding? We're sounding all right. Oh, I am very low on my end. Okay, we'll go ahead and mute that, and then we'll send out these notifications here. And then we do this. Then we do this. Okay, I think we're good to go. All right, let's pull open the document here. Here we go. So I have zoomed it in compared to last time, so it's easier for people to read along. Let's see, anything else? I suppose I should do a recap of what happened last time. So, what happened last time is, I'm trying to remember. It's been a full week. Hello, Wang Spangle. Good to see you. Happened last time is that so Locta finished his military training and tried to challenge Scream directly in a legalized sanctioned duel. Unfortunately, Scream cheated, coating his styluses with a poison berry juice that paralyzed him essentially. This greatly upset Locta, and he became very angry. Krepto is very upset at this because he is aware that Locta may not be, what he seems to be outwardly. And now, Locta, towards the end of last stream's reading, he had his first battle on the desert moon of Kelrosa, and so overcome by rage and just a desire to die, pretty much, he chased the retreating Clan Fayar far off into the desert, far away from any hope of rescue. Uh, and after being exhausted, the Clan Fayar appeared out of thin air, like stealth, like out of stealth suits and whatnot, and paralyzed him or knocked him out with a dart. And now, where he is now, we shall see. With chapter 15, the betrayer. Let me take a sip of coffee here. Again, fair reminder. Granted, I don't think there's really many here at the moment. I will be reading chat between chapters, ideally, or other stopping places. So if I miss over a message or something like that, it's not that I completely missed it. It's that I'll respond to it later. I can't respond to the things immediately. Okay, so let's go. Chapter 15, The Betrayer. Pain throbbed in Locta's head, and his body burned like fire from head to toe as the waking world slowly crawled back to him. Why? Why was he still alive? He silently questioned himself, rolling over on a metal floor and wishing to return back to the sanctuary of unconscious silence he slipped from. But he could not. His eyes eventually peeled open, and a solid cobalt blue wall was stood in front of him. It was the same material as the grated floor he laid upon. Locta blinked and looked around at the unfamiliar surroundings. He was in some kind of small, compact room, barely larger than a closet, with a low ceiling. And then when he saw the barred door, he knew that it had to be a prison cell. His fingers for the hilt for the blade at his hip, but only found empty air. It was gone. And then it hit him that it must have been captured. He stood up as much as he could without banging his head on the ceiling, and scurried towards the barred door, peeking left and right down the narrow corridors, but could see no one. Even other cells were empty. With no way to open the sturdy locked gate, he sat down on the floor with a disgruntled sigh. Great. Just great. Locta scoffed at himself. But then he soon heard the sound of approaching footsteps. They did not sound like heavy, thumping steps of a Clepathian, but short and light strides. The Clan Fayar approached. Locta's mind raced in the terrifying imaginations of what horrible tortures and interrogations they had in store for him. He scurried back into the corner of the cell with unblinking eyes fixed in terror on the gate. Any other Clepathian would have been able to defend themselves with their styluses, but not Locta. Not the defect. Finally, the three strange saurian creatures came into view, but they did not carry tools of torture. Their strange eyes of orange semicircular irises and small, downward triangular pupils did not look upon him with malice, but with an apprehensive curiosity. At least, that's what Locke hoped their alien, long-snouted beak faces displayed. Two of them were much like the ones Locke saw in the desert, dressed in a kind of leather and padded suit with gadgets at their belts, covering them from neck to the tip of their soaring tails. The other, whom they escorted, however, was different. He stood with most of his weight bared on a strange gnarled staff in his hand, bearing a single purple jewel at its top, dressed in only a simple patchwork sackcloth robe, appearing as old and withered as its wearer. His scales were a dull brown compared to the brighter green scales of those standing straighter around him, and he had a slight tremble in his motions. It was when he spoke that Locke understood that this one must have been some kind of elder. "Guards, if you will, open the gate so that I may speak to our guest," he said with a rough, wizened, but gentle voice, all in perfect calori, no less. The two younger Clonfear looked at Locke and then at each other in uncertainty before opening the gate, as the elder asked. The older Clonfear slowly stepped inside, and though Locke had nothing short of utmost fear and hatred for their kind, he felt no threat from this one. He stared without blinking at the diminutive, lizard-like being with a gaze of fear mixed with apprehensive curiosity, stiff as stone. The elder Clonfear stared back at him as well, but with wonder and amazement. He peered shrewdly at the Clepathian, trying to discern something from him, and then the Clonfear smiled and shook his head with an unexpectedly friendly chuckle. "Oh, where are my manners? I suppose I should introduce myself. I am Algoris, last prophet of the light." He introduced himself with his clawed, three-digited hand on his chest. Then he pointed at the trembling Locke. "And you? What is your name?" Locke's eyes shifted nervously, his mouth dry as he huddled with his back to the corner still. Algoris looked back at his guards, waving them off. "Go on, wait for me." "Are you certain, master?" asked one of the guards. "Yes," nodded Algoris back at them. "Can you not see you are frightening the poor thing?" With an uncomfortable sigh, the guards agreed. "As you wish, master. We'll be right down the hall." They bowed and left, leaving Algoris alone with the tired, charcoal-furred alien. "I know you must have many questions. I know you are scared and confused. But before I can answer any further, I must know your name," Algoris emphasized. "Believe me, I am not many years from the grave. There is little in the way of harm. There is little in the way of harm I can do to you save for sneezing, but hopefully my pills will prevent that, eh?" He chuckled with a friendly smile. Locke blinked. "My name?" He finally spoke. Algoris nodded eagerly. Yes, your name. Come on, let's build bridges here." Locke glanced to the floor and gulped, stammering as he spoke. "My name is Locke Felthmore." Algoris' eyes lit up, his hunched posture raising up slightly as he drew a slow, controlled breath to steady himself. "So it is you," he said, trying to contain his excitement as he approached even closer, studying Locke. "After all these years, after my teacher and his teachers before him, stretching back eons with knowledge bestowed upon us by—" He paused when Locke suddenly covered his face defensively. Algoris came too close for comfort. Pausing and blinking for a second, Algoris tilted his head and then nodded. "But, of course, you are not like the other. You are different, and do not yet know who you are." He backed away, Locke slowly lowering his arms and eyeing Algoris apprehensively. My apologies for letting my excitement get the better of me. You must be terrified." Algoris chuckled nervously, taking a step back. "You have no clue what's going on, do you?" Hesitantly, Locke shook his head. Algoris nodded and smiled. "Then I will be glad to clarify. Anything you need, just ask. Knock, and the door will open." "I wanted to die," Locke said lowly. "What?" Algoris blinked and leaned back in disbelief. Locke sharply raised his tone out of fearful rage. "Why didn't you kill me? Why did you capture me?" Algoris stepped back defensively. "I will tell you, but I ask that you try and keep an open mind." "Open mind?" Locke peered at Algoris in disgust, his lips quivering and eyes beginning to water. "You ask me to keep an open mind when your kind murdered my father? My only Ow! Locke stood up quickly, bumping his head against the hard ceiling. He rubbed the back of his head with an irate grip grimace at brief pain brought on by his own clumsiness. And now you lock me in a prison and try to act like you know me? Your outrage is understandable, but misguided. We did not murder your father, Algoris rebutted. Excuse me? You expect me to believe that? Locta scoffed at the idea. Algoris remained unfazed by Locta's emotional outbursts. Look into me with that sight of yours, and you'll know I tell no lie. Locta stared at him in shocked disbelief for a long moment, astounded by the audacity of the stranger. But he could see he was right. He could neither sense nor perceive any sort of malice or deception within him, such cleanliness never seen in one before. When Locta looked into others of his own kind, he always saw many hidden and unconfessed guilts. Always there was some kind of insecurity. Within Algoris, however, there was no such thing. What was even stranger was how he seemed to know of Locta's ability. With a dismissive shake of his head, Locta ignored it. Whatever, this could all be a trick for all I know. Fitting to those who hide with cloaks and strike from the unknown, he grunted, folding his arms. All I ask is that you listen, Locta. Hear me out, what I have to say, and then it will be up to you where to go. Algoris pleaded. Locta raised his brow in skepticism at the old Clonfear. So you'll let me go if I just sit here and listen to you blather on? That is correct. Algoris nodded humbly. But, after what I tell you, you may find it inadvisable to return. Locta eyed him curiously. What do you mean? Sit down. Get as comfortable as you can in these inadequate accommodations, said Algoris, sitting down on the floor, crossing his lean, digitigrade legs, as Locta sat down and crossed his own legs. Algoris laid his staff across his lap. I suggested somewhere far more comfortable, but security insisted otherwise. I'm sure you understand. Get to the point, Locta said, unamused by the idea of idle chit-chat. Algoris shook his head and apologized. Right, forgive an old hermit's desire for conversation. Straight to business, then, and I will start with a question. Who are you? Forget to take your meds? I already told you, Locta said, confused. Algoris smirked at him. And I already told you I took my medication. Now again, who are you? It is not a name that I ask, but something more. Locta blinked, shifting his eyes as he tapped his lower lip. I don't know? He scratched his head. Precisely. And have you ever known? Algoris asked. No? Locta shrugged with uncertainty. Algoris nodded. Of course you haven't. What purpose would there be to the faithful if he was born knowing already? The faithful? Locta questioned. Look, I don't mean to sound crass, but I've never been the religious sort. Ironic you say that, but life is like a cartographer on a river. We can only chart what is behind us, for what is ahead is unknown. Each of us have our own map to draw, but one cannot draw a map with a pencil alone. They also need a compass, said Algoris. Locta was stricken into perplexed silence by the allegory. Noticing this, Algoris explained. You do not know where you go in life, because you have no compass to guide you. Everything you have done up until now has been on a whim, and you still do not know where you are going, nor where you have been. Locta shrugged. I've been to Chelor, Tersola 4, Lostor, Debut, and even Angor 1. Algoris shook his head. No, I'm not talking matters of physical space, but where you, as a person, have been. Everything in your life up until now has been somewhat of a hazy, confused blur, has it not? You're pretty bad at this whole interrogation thing, you know. Locta tilted his head in disapproval. And you're fairly terrible at dodging questions. It may work on others, but it's not going to work on me. Algoris sassed Locta, shaking his staff at him. Now, quit that before I get cranky and bonk you on the head with my stick here. Locta rolled his eyes, seeming to be cornered in more ways than one. Fine, sure, you're right, he sighed, looking down. I guess I really don't know. I used to play pretend when I was little that I was some kind of alien, since I don't have styluses, and even when I grew out of that, Crypto always did say that I was odd. He even went so far to say that I may really be something different, citing his grandmother's tomes about other strange tales. Algoris raised his chin attentively at the mention of tomes. Crypto? Who is Crypto? Loctus smiled for a second, but then frowned as he remembered the last harsh word said to him. He is, or maybe was, at this point, a friend. The only friend I ever had. I never understood why he stuck around, especially as of late when he seemed so on edge around me, yet also overly protective in an odd way. Algoris stroked his chin, nodding slowly as the gears turned in his head. Interesting. And you said he possessed tomes of sorts? Yes, his grandmother was a mystic, said Locta. I guess I should explain who the mystics are, as that will not be necessary. Algoris rebutted with a shake of his head and a wave of his hand. I know who the mystics are, and it brings me much joy that they are still around in a time like this. Locta held his palms out forward as if halting Algoris. Wait, you know them? Personally, no. But the Clonfera people once had contact with the Clepathians long ago, said Algoris. Many of the mystics joined. He eyed Locta for an uncomfortable amount of time. Someone on a sort of pilgrimage. Our people, too, were in a time of strife then, but they brought with them wisdom, hope, and prophecy. It is also how we learned your language, speaking both it and our own, Clefia, to this day. Seeing the inconsistencies between Algoris' story and current events, Locta questioned Algoris. Then why did your people attack mine? Why are you at war with us? Algoris smiled and wagged his finger. Ah, now you are starting to see, then. It is not we who declared war on the UCS, but the UCS who declared war on us. We've simply been playing along, said Algoris. Hello, Huntress. You see, those soldiers of ours you destroyed on the battlefield are but mindless machines fabricated in a way to be convincing enough for the games your current leaders are playing. Hold on, let me get this straight. Locta laughed sarcastically. You want to be defeated? I don't know why it's all me there. Algoris, maintaining his composure, simply smirked at Locta. You look Outgraylor. Translation, truth, and the opposite. We do not want to be defeated. In fact, we've been preparing for this precise moment for thousands of years, as according to the messages delivered to us by the mystics. All those so-called hostile worlds the UCS has invaded, frauds, all set up to make it appear as if we were actively planning to attack. All those fleets, ghost ships full of automatons. Simply put, we are playing along with the game, but it seems we have our trump card. How are you today? Finally upgraded to 4070. Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. Again, reminder, I'll be reading most chat between chapters. But nice on the 4070. That's a big boy upgrade. Yeah, what's that? Locta raised a brow at Algoris. Algoris smiled. You? Huh? Locta raised a brow and gave a sarcastic laugh. I know those oversized ears of yours do not necessitate my repetition. You are our key. Let me explain. Algoris took a deep breath. 25,000 years ago, towards the end of the primordial conflicts, the Emperor of the Clepathian Empire, the one whose name you share, came to us and told us that he would return at a specific time. We were to remain hidden until then, keeping a watchful eye on the stars over your people's barren and irradiated original homeworld for the sign of your name. The constellation has arranged itself at last, and thus we knew the time had come to draw you out into our clutches. This whole phony war, this game we play along with, it is nothing more than a scheme to bring you here. Locta shook his head. But what about my father? Why did the UCS still fight? Surely there could have been a more peaceful way to ask for me. As I said, we did not kill your father, but something else did. Something dark and terrible sits at the other side of this cosmic game board, playing its own pawns and bishops like hands of shadows, snuffing out all the light from whole galaxies. If we are not prepared, then ours is next to fall, and with it, the whole universe to follow. Algoris spoke forebodingly, his light and humorous tone turning stern. This reality we live in is greater than even the brightest, wisest minds can fully comprehend. The war being fought now is but a fierce and small It was but a farce, and a small distraction for the true war to come that is not of petty politics or territorial grabs, but of the spirit. The war to come is one fought by beings higher than any mortal can reach, lower than the deepest fears in any mortal heart, and now we sit on the eve of its reprisal. In other words, you're saying you were framed, Locke simplified. Then, if not you, then who? Who are these beings? Algoris held up his finger and calculated his words. Your sight, your ability to perceive beyond what the physical tells, is a clue to this. The pain and sickness you see now when you look upon others, the sorrow and hatred you feel for it, it is but a recent thing, is it not? Lockton nodded hesitantly. I guess. I've always been able to kind of know someone just by looking into them for a while. But yeah, you're right. Ever since... ever since Scream bested me in a duel, it's been different. Everything's been clearer. He knitted his brow in a struggle to find the words. Why is that? Because you have died a first death. You say it occurred after you were bested in a duel. It must have been quite humiliating then, Algoris said crudely, as if he were a scientist studying a specimen. Locke glowered at him, then looked away without a word. Algoris nodded. Yes, that's when it happened. Your ego, your pride. It died there in a way, leaving you feeling so hollow as you do now. For a cup that is already full cannot be filled further. Your emptiness, being at the lowest of lows, allowed you to take in others around you and behold them fully in ways you could not before. Oh, yay, Locke grumbled sarcastically, still looking at the floor. Algoris leaned slightly forward and apologized. Forgive me for being so dissective. I know this must have been very painful for you, he said with a deep sincerity in his tone. Just get to the point already, Locke sighed. Algoris gulped nervously, clearly fearing he had upset Locke. Right. This sight you now have allows you to see these sickening and foul things tainting the souls of your fellow Clepathians. It is the evidence, the symptoms left behind by the touch of these dark creatures. Our people had a name for them in our native tongues, Klundruts, but your people call them demons. Demons? You're saying the Clepathians are possessed or something? Locke asked with his brow raised. Algoris shook his head. No, not yet at least. However, if they continue down this path, if they fall into the persuasions and saccharine lies of the demonic envoy among your people, they will be. The Clepathians will be nothing more than slaves, and it will be the first domino to fall in the great darkness swallowing up the whole of the universe. As I mentioned before, there is more at stake here than you realize. Locke didn't want to believe Algoris, staring at him in skeptical, fearful disbelief. But he still detected no lie or deception from him. Algoris spoke with an honest heart and clear conscience, but all his answers served was opening up even more questions. Where did these demons come from? How could he know for certain it was the truth? More important than any of this, however, was the question Locke asked next. So, let's say I believe you, just for the sake of argument. What does this have to do with me in particular? Why me? I'm no emperor, no great conqueror that the old Locke Felthmore was. I'm just a defect. He painfully uttered the last word. No, you are not the old Locke Felthmore. He, like his own predecessor, was pure power. But there is something all three of you share on a fundamental level. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you exactly as of now, but I will say it is something greater than you, as you are, can imagine, he said encouragingly. And you are far from defective, as you will find. You will be an instrument in turning this tide of darkness upon itself, and you will fulfill that which no mere mortal can. You were guided here for a reason, and you chose to follow it, and now you see where it has led you. The question is, Locke, are you ready to take the next step? Locke froze in thought for a moment, continuing to stare at Algoris. The old lizard's words were filled with promise, a tantalizing seduction towards everything Locke wanted. The winds he trusted for so long whispered in his mind to join Algoris, to trust in his words, to have faith. However, Locke then remembered that with such a life came even more pain and suffering, perhaps greater than the suffering he already experienced at the hands of his own people. With a sigh and dismal shake of his head, he gave his answer. No, I can't. Oh, I urge you to reconsider. Algoris blinked, somewhat shocked and disappointed at the answer. You're asking me to turn my back on my people, Locke said with his eyes shifting, evaded the true reason why he declined. I mean, I know they have their opinions about me, but they're still my people. And yet your people have done nothing but cast you out at every turn. Not because of your lack of physical abilities, but because of what? But because they see within you a kind of truth they refuse to hear. Algor spoke, not with scorn, but with an odd mix of amusement and disappointment as he cocked his head to the side. Locke refused to look in his eyes, lest he see the true reason why Locke refused. Algoris then shrugged and shook his head with a sigh. But alas, if that is your choice, then we shall honor it and return you to them. He stood up. I understand, though you are reviled by some aspects of them, you love them nonetheless. It is in your nature, after all. Come now, I will lead you out of this place. Sorry about that. Surprised, Lacto expected him to instead try to interrogate him or use more forceful methods to convince him, but he didn't. Apprehensively, Lacta slowly stood, following Algoris out of the cell and into the narrow corridors towards the doors at the end, where two guards awaited in front of the thick metal doors. Has he decided? One of the Clonfear asked. Yes, Algoris nodded, looking back and up at Lacta. He wishes to return to his people. The guard blinked, glancing up at Lacta and then back at Algoris in shock. But, Master, is he not? He is, Algoris interrupted the guard. But it is his wish. He is not a prisoner, but a guest, and I made our guest a promise I intend to fulfill. To lie is to sin, remember? Take us to where he can retrieve his weapon, and the ship I requested you bring here. He glanced back up at Lacta with a smile before looking ahead again. The guards reluctantly nodded with disappointment in their eyes, leading Algoris and Lacta out the doors into the bright daylight outside. The flash of sunlight blinded him at first, but when his eyes adjusted, Lacta beheld the beautiful green landscape around him. Mountains and valleys ran like ripples as far as the eye could see, cloaked in a green blanket of deciduous forests and wide grasslands with small villages dotting the landscape. Where they stood now was outside of a small fort-like building atop one of the many low mountains, with a wide landing pad out front. Upon it were two ships, unlike anything of Clepathian design, having angular, straight edges as opposed to the graceful curves. Low in profile and compact in size, they were about the size of a sky car with two flat, backswept wings. Ah, I forgot to mention, Algoris said. This world is our homeworld, Purgatory. Don't ask me about the odd name. I'm not the one who chose it, he joked. Lacta's attention was then drawn by someone approaching him from the right, clearing their throat. He looked and saw another Clonfear relinquishing the blackened tears to him. Your weapon, Lacta. He bowed his horned head. Thank you? Lacta was confused by the generosity and humility of the Clonfear, who bowed his head as Lacta took his weapon. Not a scratch was upon it, at least none he did not remember. He sheathed the blade at his hip. Lacta, are you really going to leave us? Sorry for intruding, the humble Clonfear asked. Lacta blinked and looked down at him, then looked to the ship ahead, still baffled these so-called enemies hadn't laid a hand on him, and then were just letting him go at his will. I have to. I can't stay here, he said, but the words leaving his lips betrayed the feeling and thoughts inside. Truly, he wanted to stay, wanted to believe that this was his chance to finally make something greater for himself. But he was afraid. He was a coward who was afraid of even more sacrifice and pain that came with adventure, and when he looked down at Algoris, the twinkle in the old Clonfear's eye made it seem as if Algoris knew what he was feeling. Algoris knew he was a coward, yet he showed no judgment upon him for it. Lacta was led to the ship, its cockpit opening when Algoris pressed a button on the side of its hull, and he gestured Lacta to sit within. "This ship has been pre-programmed to take you back into the nearest UCS space. Its flight computer has already been purged of the location of our world. It's a one-way trip. Let me reread that. The ship has been pre-programmed to take you back to the nearest UCS space. Its flight computer has already been purged of the location of our world. It's a one-way trip." Lacta climbed up the side of the ship and sat within, the seat already adjusted to make room for his larger size in comparison to a Clonfeyar. Was he expected to leave? He felt hopelessly confused and conflicted as he looked all around. Algoris looked up to Lacta, sitting in the cockpit, and nodded. "I wish you a splendid journey, but I think both of us know what awaits for you on the other side. However, Lacta, do remember what I have said to you today. If you have faith, perhaps there will be another chance for you in time. Take care, and Creator's blessings." He waved goodbye as the cockpit closed over Lacta's head, sealing and pressurizing the cabin before the ship automatically took off and ascended up through the atmosphere on autopilot. The ship soon reached out into space, and Lacta looked over his shoulder back at the green planet of Purgatory. Then, like a ghost, it vanished beneath a cloaking shroud. Regret churned in Lacta's gut, feeling as if he had made a horrible choice in acting out of his fear. What did await him when he returned to the UCS? His cowardice could very well be the death of him, but he couldn't believe that just yet. Perhaps there was an escape from all this pain. Using its own warp portal drive, the Clonfeyar ship streaked crackling blue bolts down its hull and tore open a warp portal, zooming inside. After a matter of mere seconds, the ship exited space, and outside the cockpit, Lacta could see a whole armada of UCS supercarriers flying in formation. Flanked by smaller ships, torpedo barges, fighters, and destroyers as well, this was a UCS fleet staging ground. Almost immediately, a console within the ship started to beep erratically, flashing red in a warning, and when Lacta looked back out the window, he realized a few of the ships altered course towards his location. Their cannon turrets locked onto his small, weaponless spacecraft, and he worried he was about to be blasted into pieces. Then, there was a flashing button on the console to his right, and Lacta hit it, only hoping that it wasn't a button to fire any weapons. Much to his relief, all that happened was that he could hear the sound of a voice coming through the internal speakers. "Unidentified Clonfeyar vessel, you have entered space under control of the United Clepathian Systems. Make no resistance or prepare to be taken as a prisoner of war." "Wait!" Lacta exclaimed back in a panic. "I'm not Clonfeyar." "Oh? Then you certainly do not sound like one, I must confess," said the voice on the other side. "Then who are you, and why do you have a Clonfeyar ship?" Lacta took a deep breath to collect himself. "My name is Lacta Felthmore, ranked Blademan of Echo Squad, Unit I-39, he stammered through his anxiety. One moment," said the other voice, being silent for a few seconds before returning. "Ah, yes, we wondered where you disappeared to. It's surprising you've decided to turn yourself in." Lacta did a double take at the last phrase. "Wait, what? Turn myself in?" "Don't tell me you're going to try to escape, let alone resist, in that pathetic, unshielded spacer of yours, traitor. You are wanted for the crimes of treason, unsanctioned use of weaponry, disobeying direct orders, and now consorting with the enemy. Stand down and prepare to be taken into custody," commanded the voice on the other side. Suddenly, a ray of red and purple energy encompassed the small ship, tugging it towards the main hangar of the supercarrier below. Hyperventilating with panicked breaths, Lacta writhed about uncomfortably in the cockpit, searching for something, anything, to get him out of the situation. But he couldn't read the language on any of the controls. Now he really wished he hadn't come back. The ship was forced to dock in the main hangar, and immediately a full security detail rushed towards Lacta's ship. Lacta opened the canopy, keeping his hands raised. "This is all a mistake! I didn't do anything wrong!" he pleaded, but their glare showed they were convinced otherwise. "Get out of the ship and come along! Do not resist or you will be put down with force!" shouted one of the security officers through a megaphone. Soon, the security detail was not alone, as others came forth as well to observe the accused traitor being apprehended. Among them was none other than Scream himself. "That's him! Don't let him get away with it this time!" Scream cried out from the other end of the hangar, shaking his fist vengefully at Lacta. As soon as Lacta stepped out of the ship, he was grabbed by his arms and bindings slapped around his wrist. The officers escorted him quickly towards the security ship in the hangar, others in the crowd behind cheering for his capture. Lockton didn't understand. He may have disobeyed orders, but treason? Consorting with the enemy? Worse yet were how almost everyone seemed to look upon him with hatred, glad that he was finally being taken away, possibly forever. The others of his squad, whom Lockton could discern among the crowd, did not look upon him with hatred, but saddened as if they had been betrayed by him. Then, when he looked at Scream, he instantly knew what happened just by the smug grin on his face alone. Lockton was soon shoved into the armored hold of the security ship. The door slammed shut and locked tight behind him. Though muffled through the bulkhead separating the hold from the cab, he still heard the officers speak something indecipherable. Their voices, however, were not alone. Scream was among them. With a shudder and quick ignition of the engines, the ship took off, and the loud cheering faded into silence of space travel. Where was he going? Lockton wondered. If he could barely handle the life of a soldier, he certainly would not be able to handle the life of prison. Then again, there was 1 ounce of hope, Lockton remembered. The UCS would at least put him on trial, and there he could defend himself and clear this whole mistake up. With that knowledge, Lockton calmed himself and focused, namely on the voices coming from the cabin at the front of the ship. He pressed his left ear against the forward bulkhead, listening to the conversation. It was muffled, difficult to discern, but he heard it much clearer now that it was accompanied by the thrumming of laser ablation engines in the silence of space. There was Scream's rough voice, and he spoke to another Lockton recognized. Caltethis. Lockton has been captured, sir. I told you I could get rid of him, gloated Scream. You mean sit by while others do it for you. Don't get to thinking you're special, Scream. Caltethis replied through the ship's comms. But you did fulfill your end of the bargain, and will be aptly rewarded once I see him with my own eyes. Scream replied with a most delighted tone. Of course, Caltethis. I always get what I want in the end. We are heading towards Torosa now. Torosa. A shiver raced down Lockton's spine as he now knew what awaited him. Torosa, like Kelrosa, was a gas giant, but this giant had no moons. In fact, it was the only planet orbiting its red supergiant sun. The only habitation around Torosa was a maximum security prison station in orbit, and those who were tried there almost never got out. With no one to defend him but himself, and with the tone in Caltethis' voice, Lockton's heart sank along with what little hope he had left. This was all a setup. This time it was not just by Scream, but by Caltethis himself. Why Caltethis would do such a thing to Lockton, he could not even begin to comprehend. Lockton did nothing wrong to Caltethis, so why did Caltethis speak as if he were collecting a long-overdue bounty? Had Scream been in on it from the beginning? No, this was something recent. Lockton recalled Algoris' words, but about this grand cosmic game they were a part of. For so long, Lockton could only see the board, but now he began to see the players reveal themselves. There were the Clonfear, and there was the UCS. Both served higher masters. There was one as clear as day, and there was one as obscure as night, the truth lying beneath what sight alone beheld. What a cruel irony, Lockton thought. With a shudder and thud of the ship, he knew they landed at Torosa. Lockton quickly backed away from the forward bulkhead as to not appear suspicious mere seconds before the rear doors were unlatched and opened by the crew inside. They reached in and grabbed Lockton by his arms, pulling him out so quick he almost fell over. The blackened tears was taken from him, and his head forced down as to not be able to see anything but the floor before they shoved him forward with the butt of their sonic stun rifles. He grunted, but did not complain. Better to be hit by those in the back than to be shot and suffer tinnitus, migraines, and vertigo for weeks from the havoc they wrought upon a Clepathian's sensitive hearing. He'd much rather cooperate than try to fight and dig his grave even deeper. All he could see was the cold, riveted steel floor as he was led along towards the trial room. Upon arrival, the heavy metal bulkheads hissed and whirred as they slid open, and the guards shoved Lockton inside. Once one of the officers grabbed him by his ears and pulled down hard on them, painfully forcing him to look up and forward at what lied before him. Already he could tell this was no ordinary courtroom, not like those he saw and read about as a kid in his mystery comic books. It was small, dark, with only bright spotlights shining down narrow beams of light from above. The security guards closed in and locked the door, standing at its flank. Lockton stood in the middle of the room, looking around in distressed confusion. Then he heard someone speak, their robotic voice chilling him to the bone. Caltethis. Lockton Felthmore, what a pity you, of all people, stand before us today. he said from the shadows. More lights then switched on to reveal Caltethus and four others standing before him. This was no ordinary trial. Locta blinked in surprise for a moment as he saw the others, recognizing them. Wait, Skirthy? Leetru? And you two? You all knew my father, he said to the four star marshals. One of them opened their mouths as if to say something, but immediately halted as Caltethus held up his hand. Excuse me. Yes, they knew your father. I can only imagine Skyreath's disappointment if he saw you now, standing here as a criminal, as a traitor. Caltethus scorned Locta with disdain in his one visible eye. Caltethus slowly walked towards Locta. You may not know me well, Locta, but I will say that I was greatly influenced by your father. He may not have told you, but I was close to him, and he knew me. In a way, we always knew each other, even if he did not tell you. My father kept many secrets, yes. Locta gulped and looked down, the flashbacks of his childhood racing through his mind. Now his father became more and more distant as the years went on. He shook his head and faced Caltethus once more. But I fail to see how that matters now. Caltethus nodded. You are not an idiot, I know that, so I'm sure you have your reasons to defend yourself against the charges brought against you. We have brought you here so that you may undergo a fair trial, so let's stop wasting time. He put his hands behind his back, starting to pace left and right in front of Locta as he spoke. Locta Felthmore, you have been accused by your fellow soldiers and superior officers for disobeying direct orders, unsanctioned use of weaponry, treason, and consorting with the enemy. What is your defense? Locta blinked in astonishment, but then sighed and slumped his shoulders. All right. I confess that I may have disobeyed orders. But unsanctioned use of weaponry? Blade infantry are permitted to only to use their stilices lest the formation and order of the front is broken. You clearly did not use stilices. Caltethus spoke with a disturbingly calm, machine-like voice. Locta's jaw dropped at the pettiness, scoffing. What? I don't have stilices, so I had to use my own weapon. If that's a crime, then why was I allowed to be in blade infantry in the first place? He shouted. Now, Locta, let's not get overly emotional. I know you have a tendency to whine quite a bit, but we are adults here. Act like one. Caltethus folded his arms and peered at Locta. But you do have a point, I suppose. However, the other charges against your name may be more difficult to clear up. Taking a deep breath to control his anger, Locta's blood began to boil at Caltethus having the audacity to speak down at him like he was his guardian. More difficult? What evidence do you have that I've committed treason? The ship you flew in on was of Clonfear make. Your superior officer, Scream Rusjim, and several others bared witness to you following the Clonfear in retreat even after the order to halt the advance on Kelrosa sounded. Once more, scouts sent after you saw from afar as you bent your knees to four other Clonfear, before they promptly took you into custody. Caltethus laid down the charges like hammers driving nails into Locta's coffin. What? Bending my knee, Locta blinked, vaguely remember how he pursued them into the desert. Caltethus took a small remote from his coat pocket, and with the press of a button, a large display screen lit up behind him showing a recording of Locta in the desert through the view of a distant scouting telescope. His exhaustion forcing him to his knees, grabbing his sword for support, misinterpreted as him giving himself over to the Clonfear around him. Locta had no evidence, neither a clue on how to convince them otherwise. His blood ran cold and his mouth dried. I was exhausted, having been running for hours chasing them. And why exactly would you disobey orders and chase them? We know well of how much disdain you hold for the UCS. It's been made quite clear that you see our society as, and I quote, sick and broken. The evidence, though it is not proof, is stacked against you, and all you have to defend yourself is to claim that you chased them? Why? Caltethus continued to verbally back him into the corner with false accusations. Locta sputtered and tensed up, rage and anxiety whirling like a tornado through him, but then he closed his eyes, clenched his fist, and took a deep breath before speaking again. To be honest, it's because I was angry. Locta spoke quietly now, looking at the floor in shame as he knew it would not be enough. I wanted to kill them all. The chaos of battle let my hatred for what they did to my father overtake me. I just snapped. It was all a blur. All I remember was an overwhelming desire to exterminate all of them, or die trying, he confessed with heartfelt words. Keltethis peered at him with a cold, skeptical gaze. A touching and sympathetic story. Yet there is one critical flaw. You returned in a Clonfear ship with all traces of its origins wiped clean and its course pre-plotted. None of us know how to fly their ships, and even if you somehow knew, it is completely absurd for someone who claims such hatred to erase valuable data regarding where it came from. He shook his head. Locta's ears and shoulders slumped, his tail falling limp, and his eyes opened wide with dread as Keltethis continued. Your story is full of holes. Your only defense are emotions against the facts and logic we represent. But before we deliver your sentence, I would ask you one thing. Why? Why did you betray us? Why did you betray everything your father fought for? Keltethis started to show a hint of anger in his questions as he clenched his fist at Locta. Locta could see now that they had already made up their minds, and there was nothing he could do to convince them otherwise. His life was already over, his fists clenched and his brow furrowed into a scowl, feeling so betrayed. You know what? Maybe I did commit treason under our broken laws, Locta started. Maybe I did consort with the enemy, if that's what you'd like to interpret. But there is something I saw in our enemy that goes against everything I and every citizen of the UCS has been led to believe. The Clonfear, they aren't monsters or beasts. They are people, like us. Vastly different on the outside, yes, but the Clonfear are not the ones who have deceived our people into believing. Are not the ones you have deceived our people into believing. They even speak our language, Locta said defiantly, much to the disgust and confusion of the council standing before him, against him. And you want to know the best part about it all? Locta stood up straight as he was filled with remorse and regret for returning to the UCS, throwing his life down the drain out of fear and suffering, when in the end his cowardice wrought only more pain. The best part about it all is, in the brief time we knew each other, they treated me more like a person than almost anyone in the UCS had in my whole life. They listened to me, looked upon me not with glares of disgust, but with warm, welcoming smiles. All my life I have lived underfoot, looked upon as defective, lesser trash. Even now I can see the hatred for me in your eyes, one that I did not understand until I spoke to them, listened to them, saw within them that there is an alternative to all this, he exclaimed, gesturing his hand around him before looking back at Keltethis with tears of regret welling in his eyes. Locta's voice softened, and he shook his head slightly. In that brief moment I spoke to them, the Clonfear told me the truth I refused to believe until now, where I stand before those who hate me because they're afraid of me. You're afraid of who I am, and what I could become. You know what? I should have stayed with them. I made a mistake in coming back here. And I made a mistake in believing my own people would be there for me. There may be some among the Clopathians still redeemable, but the rest of you? He trailed off and shook his head dejectedly. Just take me away. Get it over with and burn in hell. He confessed everything from the bottom of his embittered, woeful heart right in front of the 4-star marshals and Keltethis himself. He knew now that they, nearly all of his people, were sick, diseased with corruption, plagued with a festering boil of sin. That was what the Clonfear called it. Sin. While the others at his side, even the guards in the room, were bemused or even surprised by what Locta said about them, Keltethis maintained his cold stare. With pleasure, he said. Locta Felthmore, for the charges of treason and consorting with the enemy, you are hereby sentenced to confinement here within Torosa Penal Station for life. Security, show the traitor his cell. Locta closed his tearful eyes and faced down as the sentence fell upon him like a guillotine. It was not just death, but a slow and silent death of well over thousands of years given a Clopathian's lifespan. An unlife of nothing but 4 steel-gray walls and bars, while the rest of the galaxy moved on without him. The prison guards grabbed his arms and, again, forced his head down, and took him out of the room where he was led down many long, labyrinthine halls and countless security bulkheads until he finally arrived at his cell. His restraints were removed before he was punted into backside, forcing him on his hands and knees into the small cell, followed by the barred door slamming shut and locking behind him. He had gone from one cold cell into another, but this time there was no friendly face giving him a choice to leave. His wish for death had been granted, but all too late did he realize that one must be careful what they wished for. Regret swelled in his heart as his eyes shed silent, black tears. Sorrow turned to anger, and anger turned to sorrow again in a tumbling cycle of misery, for he knew he had no one but himself to blame for his grief. His cowardice had not brought him sanctuary, but only prolonged his suffering. If only he would have opened his eyes to the reality around him, instead of believing the lies he told himself. If only he wasn't so afraid of pain, then maybe he wouldn't be here now. If only he trusted in Al Gore's words instead of believing the lies wrought upon himself by fear of the future. If only he had not ignored the winds this time. If only he chose faith, for the suffering of the flesh was nothing to the pain in the spirit he endured now. Locke sat there in the corner of the cold, Carbidian steel floor, his head slumped in arms over his knees, whimpering for hours with the cycle of self-flagellating thoughts and encoring in his mind. He could hear the sounds of guards walking up and down the corridors, and then among them was another who did not match their marching pace. Locke thought it was just another guard, but then the steps halted in front of his cell, spoke with a voice of the only one he knew as a friend. Locke? With a gasp of relief, Locke looked up and wiped his eyes. Crypto! He stood up and rushed over to the barred gate separating them. I knew you'd show up eventually. You're gonna get me out of here, right? He begged. Crypto, however, showed only disappointment on his face as he glanced down and to the side, unsure of how to respond. I'm sorry, Locke, but not this time. What? Locke's excitement turned to shock. I can't get you out of this one, Locke, dismally said Crypto. Locke shook his head. You don't seriously believe I'm a traitor, do you? No, Crypto shook his head. I know the charges brought against you are wrong. I know you well enough that you wouldn't just turn on us like that and become an enemy overnight. You always loved your people, wanting the best for them even when it hurt you. It's not like you to do that. Then why don't you bring it up with him? Locke pleaded, his hands gripping the bars tightly. I know you have connections in higher places that I don't have, so maybe you could pull some strings and— No, Locke. Crypto shook his head. Not this time. I hate what's been done to you. I really do. But the highest of courts has already made their decision. If Kel'Thuzes sentences you, the only way I could possibly get you out of here is by betraying the UCS. I can't do that, no matter how badly I want to. Locke almost couldn't believe what he was hearing, loosening his grip on the bars. You choose the laws we both know are corrupt over truth? Over our friendship? He started to tear up again. I can't break the law, Locke. Crypto exclaimed just above a whisper. Open your eyes already. Even if I could get you out of here, the odds are stacked against us. The entirety of the UCS would be at our heels, and warp portals can't navigate outside the galaxy yet. We'd be on the run for the rest of our lives. It'd take a miracle for us to get away with it. There was then a shouting from down the corridor, one of the security guards saying that Crypto's visitation time was up. I'm deeply sorry, Locke, but I can't do this. I'll visit as much as I'm able. Maybe we'll find some way to get you out in the future. But for now, I hope you understand. Goodbye. Friend. Crypto backed away from the gate and walked off, Locke staring at him in utter shock as the last thing he saw from Crypto now was his back turned towards him, betraying friendship and justice for the letter of the law. Yet Locke could not blame him. Locke now realized just how dependent he was on Crypto, and how many times Crypto lifted him when he fell. Now, when he could lift him up no longer, Locke was helpless. All because of his own naivety, and now his own cowardice. He leaned on the bars, closing his eyes as black tears fell and pooled on the floor, crying for minutes, hours, he didn't know. And he could not even sleep, so distressed at both himself for being a fool and the sickness of his own people. But eventually, something broke through the silence of solitude. Out of nowhere, the entire station shuddered and shook. It was slight, but noticeable, as if something heavy struck it. A stray asteroid, perhaps? Far down the halls, the guards chattered into their communications devices, some of them rushing elsewhere, but no alarm sounded. Nevertheless, they moved with a kind of urgency that let Locke and the other inmates know something was wrong. The station suddenly shuddered again with a force that nearly threw Locke off his feet. The stumbling guards braced themselves against the wall, and then everything went dark. The entire station's power distribution network went offline. Everything from the lights to the internal comms network was out, as Locke could tell from the ringing errors of the comms devices on the guards' jackets. There was a sudden hooting and hollering from the inmates as they tried to stir a riot or break out of their cells, but the sturdy mechanical door locks were apathetic to the state of the power network. Locke was still trapped among them as well, but whatever was going on was too perfectly timed to be mere coincidence. At first, Locke thought Krepto had a change of heart and was doing something clever to get him out, but then he heard the sound of footsteps behind him in the pitch darkness, within his own cell. He gasped and turned about, his fur standing on end. "Who's there?" he called out to the darkness, but realized that these steps were not Clepathian. He recognized these light steps from before. They were Clonfiar. From within the shadows, Locke felt the Clonfiar's small, scaly clawed hand grab his own. "We are trying to pull you out. Stay still and quiet if you wish to leave," said the Clonfiar. "You do wish to leave, yes." Locke checked over his shoulder and then back towards the voice. "I should have listened to Algoris the first time. Let's get out of here," he whispered eagerly. "Thought so. Now let's hold still. Thought so. Now, hold still while the ship gets a lock on our signal," said the Clonfiar. All of a sudden, the darkness blotting Locke's sight became blindingly bright as a flash of energy, and, almost instant, All of a sudden, the darkness blotting Locke's sight became a blindingly bright flash of energy, and, almost in an instant, it faded, and he found himself no longer in his cell. He looked around and realized he stood within a Clonfiar ship, the crew all around working their stations diligently. Through the view screen of the ship, he saw the penal station floating in orbit ahead, its windows still dark. Locke's rescuers spoke clearly to the commander of the ship, who stood at the front. "Commander, we've got him." "Commander, we've got him. What news on his weapon?" "Excellent work, Corlon. His weapon has been retrieved as well," said the commander. "Helm, pull us out of here and keep the cloak up. There's no telling when they'll get their power back online when the suppression field fades, and we can't have Clepathian ships following our warp portal signature." The helmsman towards the front of the ship pulled the ship away from the station with a pull and twist of the control yoke. Through the view screen ahead, Locke saw the station and gas giant move out of view as the ship turned about and fled. "Maintain course until out of their sensor range, then lock in a warp portal to Purgatory," said the commander. "Yes, sir," said the helmsman. Whilst they flew away from Torosa, Locke stood stiff as stone in the bridge of the Clonfiar ship, still stunned at his sudden rescue. It all happened so fast. How could they have known he was at this exact prison? Whatever the case, a wave of relief overcame him as he was out of that cold, steel tomb. "As I said, Lacta," a familiar, wizened voice of Algoris suddenly came from behind, as if reading his thoughts. "We've been playing this game for a long time." Lacta looked back at him, entering the bridge from the lower decks, and the old Clonfiar smiled at his baffled expression. "But how did you—" Lacta didn't even know where to begin asking. "Actually, never mind. I suppose I shouldn't be questioning my rescuers. Thank you, Algoris and everyone else here. Thank you. I realized all too late that you were right, and I was a coward for refusing to listen." Algoris blinked and tilted his head as he slowly approached Locke's side, using his staff to support his weight. "You say that so often, but you were right this time. You had to go back and see for yourself, because you love your people, and no one can fault you for that. It is their sin that you rightfully hate. I knew you would wish to leave after our first encounter, but I also knew you needed to see for yourself the unfortunate time we exist in. You needed to see just how deep the sickness of sin runs," he said, looking up to Lagta. "I know it must be hard, and I am deeply sorry." Ooh, excuse me. Lagta looked to the floor of the ship and let out a slow, dismal sigh. "Something tells me this isn't the last I've seen of such sickness." Algoris nodded, confirming Lacta's suspicions. "You are correct in your assumptions, but fret not. You are not as alone as you think you are. Rest assured that the choice you have made is not for the Clonfiar, neither for the healing your broken people. This is for the whole of the universe, unlike any war you ever fought within its starry expanse. I am willing to teach you how to prepare yourself and be strong against the struggles ahead, but are you willing to learn? Are you willing to open your mind to the truth of reality and see through the eyes of faith?" Locke gulped, feeling that same doubt from before. But after the injustice he just experienced, after all that he experienced through his life until now, he was willing to choose faith again. I... I am, he uttered, looking to Algoris. However, before we begin, you mentioned a creator the last time we met, and it's not the first time I've heard him mentioned. Who is he? Algoris smiled gladly at him. Let that be my first lesson, then. The Creator, the Father of all things, all good, all powerful, and always present. He is truth, he is love, he is light. So much has been written and learned about him, yet it has amounted to so little understanding, limited by our own mortal minds. However, you already know him, perhaps more so in a way that no one else ever will. What do you mean by this? Locke didn't understand Algoris' implications. Algoris looked to the other Clonfear around the bridge, some of them looking back at him knowingly, and then Algoris looked back up to Locke. Just look within you. That which guides you beyond instinct, and you shall fall, or you shall find the first breadcrumb on his trail. Locke blinked in surprise and looked around, realizing Algoris was speaking what he simply called the winds of destiny for so long. It was the influence of the Creator. Algoris nodded knowingly at its visible realization and continued. The Clopathian mystics keep to themselves for a good reason. There is some knowledge out there unfit for all except a trained few to know, and some knowledge which must keep secret until the time is right. It is confusing to you now, but in time you will see, not through words, but through the events unfolding around you on your long journey ahead. Great, now you're sounding like Crypto, Locke rolled his eyes and shrugged. Their ship decloaked and tore open a warp portal in front of the bow with a surge of energy skittering down the hull. Algoris smirked at Locke as the ship slowly flew into warp space. Well, there is something I can tell you. The first thing you should know about the faith in the Creator we Clonfear follow, that your people once followed, is not about us mortals finding the Creator. Such things are impossible for a mortal to grasp on their own. Then what is it about? Locke asked, looking down at Algoris curiously. Algoris, staring up at him with a slight smile, spoke with carefully chosen words. It is about the Creator finding us. Alright, that was chapter 15. Take a little stretch break here. There we go. So, summarize. Locke wakes up in a Clonfear prison cell, meets Algoris for the first time, who informs him about, or hints at, what he might be, and that he might have a greater destiny and whatnot. Locke goes against that, still feeling attached to his people and still conflicted with his own feelings, especially his hatreds for the Clonfear and what he actually feels for his own people. But once he's taken back, he's once more cast out and betrayed by his people, even thrown into prison, and sees in reality that they really do not have a place for him among their society. They cast him out, they hate him, pretty much everyone just doesn't like him or avoids him. But then he is later rescued. Unfortunately, Crypto is not involved in the rescue this time, and actually turns away from Locke, kind of souring him. But he is rescued, and now he's being taken back to Purgatory. I'll take a sip of coffee here. It feels like, damn, it's been an hour already. It feels like 10 minutes. I don't know if is that a good thing or a bad thing. I read for 2 hours, and then I hop over to a game or something, because reading for 4 hours straight, it takes a lot out of me. So it's gonna be 2 hours of reading, and then 2 hours of video games. I'm play some Fallout New Vegas. Alright, Chapter 16, Pulling Back the Veil. The Clonfear starship exited the warp portal into what appeared to be empty space, but as they flew further, the Clonfear homeworld of Purgatory coalesced into view right before their eyes. The planetary cloaking fields had a limited range, from what Locke understood by the chattering of the crew on the bridge, and simply flying close enough made the world visible. Outside of it, however, it was like it simply did not exist. Not even gravity would register to starship instruments. Down through the atmosphere of the mountainous green world the Clonfear ship flew, and Locke was still full of questions. Where are we going? He asked Algoris, who stood at his side. To the city-state of Ukranor. I will take you to the place where we will meet the High Lord, said Algoris. Oh, great, another trial, just what I wanted. Locke sighed sarcastically, folding his arms. Algoris looked up at him with an amused smirk. On the contrary, almost all Clonfear already believe you are the reincarnation of the one who visited us many millennia ago. Whoa, hold on. Locke turned towards him and leaned back. Reincarnation? Earlier you said he was just a predecessor. Algoris nodded slightly. That's correct, but a reincarnation is not a clone. Fear not, you are very much your own being, but you are also the very same as the one before you and the one before him in ways you will discover very soon. There is, however, one last thing you must do before you finally take up the full mantle of your name. And what's that? Asked Locta, relaxing but showing concern upon his face. Algoris gave a sly smile, being cryptic as always. As I said, you will learn not by words, but by the journey. He pointed his staff towards the view screen. Locta looked forward at the thin view screen of the ship's bridge as they pierced through the clouds, seeing the forested landscape of mountains and valleys closer now. The mountains were low and weathered like wrinkles in the landscape, with many humble villages dotting the low country between them. In the center of one of the wider valleys stood a large, gleaming walled city. It wasn't nearly as grandiose as Chelor's massive sprawl, but was certainly beautiful, with the gleaming silvery plating upon the roofs of a simple yet unique architecture. The ship flew low and slow over the city walls, docking itself cozily in a wide hangar at the far end. With the sound of the engines powering down, the commander of the ship turned to face Locta and Algoris. Prophet, you're safe to depart, he said. And Locta, you will find your sacred weapons safe and sound near the exit ramp. Sacred? Locta raised a brow and blinked. Remember, Commander, this is not the zealot who visited our ancestors before, but the faithful. There is much for him to discover. Algoris said, looking up at Locta. Follow me, Locta, and do try to ignore the stares and whispers. Cities are rife with gossip, I'm sure you know. He politely gestured with a wave of his hand. Locta nodded apprehensively and followed Algoris, as he was now stepping into a foreign world, something no Clopathian had done for eons. The Blazing Sun Galaxy was entirely under UCS control, or at least it was thought up until the Clonfear showed themselves. Every world in it was little more than its own state, but all of them had the same culture and language. Only the terrain and climate differed. Even in the days of the Clopathian Empire and Rattan Republic, the galaxy was still almost entirely controlled by Clopathians. There were vague hints and archaeological evidence of other sentient beings once inhabiting parts of the galaxy, but they had long since disappeared. As Locta remembered from his history classes, the Clonfear Empire drove them out in the earliest years following the overthrow of the Calorian oligarchy, eventually conquering the entire galaxy. He couldn't imagine the amount of blood on his people's hands. Other sentient beings were one thing, perhaps even forgivable, since two different species lacked natural inherent empathy, but Clopathian bloodlust did not cease with others. When the other natives were driven out, it was not long until the Clopathians turned on themselves, and as they had so many times before. There was penance to be paid, but what penance could possibly pay for so much bloodshed? How could this possibly be healed if it's been infected and bleeding for longer than even the UCS? Locta couldn't even begin to know. Perhaps not yet. Algoris and these Clonfear he was soon to walk among may have held the answer. At least, that was what they believed, and it still remained to be seen whether or not their faith truly had any tangible substance as Algoris and Locta approached the rear boarding ramp. There, on the wall as the commander said, was Locta's sword. With a swift, eager motion, he took the blackened tears off the wall and sighed in relief. It was good to have his one possession in the universe back in his hands. Sacred indeed, Algoris mused at Locta treating the weapon like a priceless treasure. Huh? Locta didn't catch on, sheathing the blade at his hip. Oh, nothing. Algoris chuckled to himself, amused at Locta's quirks as usual. With a press of a few keys upon the wall, the door at the rear of the ship slid open and a ramp extended out the back into the concrete ground below. Algoris took the lead, and Locta followed to the ground outside. It was then Locta got a clear look at the gray and orange ship he arrived upon, the vessel certainly larger than the other Clonfear ship, but no bigger than a small freighter by Clopathian standards, and minimally armed. Like all Clonfear ships, it too shared the same bulky and angular aesthetic. Come along now, Locta. There's no time to lose. Algoris turned and noticed him ogling the ship. Coming. Sorry. Locta turned away from the ship and caught up with Algoris, following him out into the city streets. The busy streets were narrow, bustling with so much activity that Locke could barely see the light, beige-yellow brickwork making up its construction. The Clonfear appeared to prefer getting around on foot by the lack of vehicles, many of them even wearing boots or foot wraps which were almost unheard of to Clopathians. Nevertheless, a few of them rode atop hovering jet cycles, screeching up and down the middle of the larger roads, like the one Algoris and Locke walked down now, flanked by many small buildings neatly fit together. Only a very few of the buildings reached higher than the walls around the city, but even the tallest were a stark contrast to the massive skyscrapers Locke grew up around. A few of these larger Clonfear buildings were highly decorated, coated in silver and embossed with eye-catching designs. They appeared to be places of faith and worship, judging by the symbols atop their pointed steeples. Locke's head spun with how different these people were, how simple they were. Then again, they were, in fact, aliens, after all. It was not as terrifying as he thought meeting alien sentience would have been, but neither was it something he envied. It was beautiful in the way it was, by the Clonfear, for the Clonfear, pure. Locke began to think that at one point his people too had their own beautiful culture. The Clopathians once upon a time had something which made them admirable and unique, not this bland wash of materialism and apathy the UCS embodied now. An odd kind of nostalgia surrounded his imagining of it. Was this what drove his father? Perhaps, but for now, Locke kept his eyes ahead of him on Algoris, lest he lose sight of him. "Pardon the traffic," Algoris said, back to Locke over the bustling crowd. Ooh, that's a mistake right there. Oopsie, let's just, Algoris said back to Locke over the bustling crowd. "Ukranor is the oldest and largest city on Purgatory, center of all trade routes, and believed to be where our kind were given the gift of souls countless years ago. It's where we went from beasts to mortals, gaining free will and self-awareness." He looked across the street to a tired farmer snoring fast asleep on a stack of straw and chuckled. "Well, at least self-awareness to most of us." Locke smirked, but kept looking around with a mixture of awe, confusion, and amusement. "It certainly is different, I'll say." "Don't worry, our destination is straight ahead. I'm sure someone as tall as you can see it already." Algoris pointed in front of him. Locke could easily see the massive palace where Algoris led him, as the Clonfear were only around 4 feet tall. Likewise, he stuck out like a sore thumb. Nearly everything about him, aside from him having clawed digits as well, was a stark contrast to the physiology of a Clonfear. His appearance attracted as many stares as it spurred whispers behind his back, making it apparent they vastly underestimated the sensitivity of a Clopathian's hearing. One thing Locke did find himself scratching his head at was that the Clonfear did not have caps on their tails, and they were also reptilian instead of mammalian, confusing him on how to tell which was male or female. Perhaps he'd find out in time, but like what awaited him ahead, he couldn't be certain. The street became wider and wider as they approached the palace, opening up into a vast, circular courtyard around a central fountain. Atop of it was a silver statue of a robed Clonfear kneeling in prayer. The amount of temples and symbolism among the Clonfear people alone was almost surreal. Never had Locke thought that any technologically advanced society could hold faith as a central pillar, yet here it was, right before him. So many illusions, so many things he once assumed and believed about life became undone with each step among this world. And Algoris stepped into the shadow, or as he and Algoris stepped into the shadow of the great palace, he knew that this was only the beginning. Algoris and Locke approached the wide steps leading up to the massive front doors, pausing for a moment as they both took in the awe of the colossal silver-plated building. It wasn't particularly tall, but its width alone took up nearly a quarter of the entire city. "Nervous?" asked Algoris with a look up to Locke, still bearing that slight smirk he seemed to always wear. Locke blinked twice and cleared his throat with a shudder. "Why would I be nervous?" he stammered, answering Algoris' question with another. Algoris nodded up towards the giant closed doors. "You will see. Come on, or come. High Lord Valakor awaits us within," he said. But though Locke expected such an elderly being to find difficulty in climbing so many steps, what followed Algoris' words left Locke as astounded as he was dumbfounded. The jewel in his staff glowed a violet light, and, as if he were weightless, Algoris levitated several inches off the ground and began hovering up the stairs effortlessly. "What the? How did you—" Locke scratched his head and rubbed his eyes, his mind finding it difficult to rationalize what he saw as the old Clonfear walked on air. Algoris simply looked over his shoulder and, as always, bore that same knowing smile Locke was beginning to grow a little tired of. Locke blinked, then shook his head and sighed in confused frustration before following Algoris up the stairs. At least it wasn't the first time he saw something strange, remembering the Mystic's flame and what happened to Scream during their duel. Even though his duel with Scream was only a couple days ago, and even though the witness to the Mystic's flame was just over a year ago, it all felt so distant. It was as if that life wasn't even his anymore. All of it was now a vague blur, but with these aliens he never thought he'd be walking beside. He believed he may find clarity at last. As he and Algoris stood before the great doors to the palace, Locke wondered if it were perhaps better that if that past was best left behind him, or if he was making yet another mistake. Here he was in the clutches of those he once called an enemy, and those he once hated with every fiber of his being, standing not in front of them, but beside them. All his hatred for them burned itself to exhaustion, leaving only desperation within. All he could hope for was that these alien creatures were genuine in their promise of a new life, and were not simply exploiting his desperation with seductive lies. Trust, faith, did not come easy to him now, not after so much betrayal. Now, as he stood atop the stairs in the palace's shadows, his only choice was to have faith. This was his final chance at finding life at last. Approaching the doors as tall as buildings themselves, Algoris stopped levitating and held up his staff to a small divot at the seams matching the shape of a stave's head. With a simple tap, there was a loud and heavy churning of gears and metal chains. The great locks on the door turned, and the doors slowly cracked open. Algoris led Locke inside, and, in contrast to the outside, everything within was dark. Every step made an echo in the grand chamber of polished stone until Algoris suddenly stopped and held up his hand. "Ah, we are here." "Where? I can barely see anything," Locke exclaimed, looking all around and behind him at the now closed doors. Algoris gestured his hand up and out before him. "Then the light will show you." Algoris looked in the direction where Locke looked in the direction where Algoris pointed, in a small flicker of golden white flame high in the distance. As he squinted further, he saw that it was held in the palm of another Clonfeyar, standing on some kind of high balcony ahead. More flames began to ignite on other balconies all around Locke as other Clonfeyar in lavish, velvet red robes mimicked the first. All of a sudden, the flames in their hands leaped out directly overhead where Locke stood, igniting a huge chandelier, illuminating the great dark chamber. At last, Locke saw them clearly, those in red robes on high balconies standing around him and Algoris, and the one on the highest balcony before them in robes of white with an elegant diadem upon his head. With a voice echoing through the chamber, the white-robed one spoke. "Algoris, it is good to see you, old friend." "As it is to see you, Valakor, your highness." Algoris bowed his head respectfully. "Oh, you flatter me," said High Lord Valakor. And I see you have brought the one of our interest with you." He looked at Locke with a studious gaze, filled with awe. "A Clepathian. I never thought I'd see one with my own eyes, and not through a cloaked orbital telescope. They're even more adorable in person, I must say." "You truly believe this is the one we have been waiting over 25,000 years for?" asked the High Lord in a less jovial tone. Algoris nodded. "Absolutely, Valakor. I could hear it in his voice, see it in his actions, and even his very weapon matches his predecessor." "What of the Black Blood?" inquired Valakor, stroking his scaly chin. Algoris glanced up at Locke, then back to Valakor. "That I have not been able to prove. I do not wish to harm him, of course, but otherwise all other signs I have seen indicate he must be the one." "Indeed. I wish your words were good enough, but you understand well that we live in a dire time. Our enemies are beginning to rear their heads around every corner, plotting against us as we move against them," said Valakor. "To be certain, he must be tested. Let us bring light upon him. Let it judge him as it judged us when the Clepathians first came to our world, when we too were broken and nearly lost to our own sin." In a sudden flash of light around their forms, Valakor and the others once standing upon the balconies teleported to the floor where Locke and Algoris stood. Locke was far too confused by this strange display of magic to even speak at this point. With fear and wonder mixing in his eyes, he glanced back and forth, left and right, between every one of them as they all stepped closer, encircling him. Valakor, standing directly in front of Locke, studied him carefully. "Tell me, Clepathian, why do you fear? Why do you tremble?" I Locked rubbed the back of his neck. I just, I've never seen so much. It's also, I can't explain it. He clumsily stumbled over his words. Intriguing. Valakor rubbed his chin, looking back at Algoris. So he does not know, then? Algoris shook his head. He does not. As I told you earlier, he is the one. He is the faithful. And what is a leap of faith if there is already a bridge? You are correct, old friend. But if I were to use your own metaphor, this one would be leaping without even knowing where the ledge on the other side was. It seems that his eyes are still closed, his ears still covered, said Valakor, with studious, curious eyes upon Locta. He glanced back at Algoris. As if you, as if you could, as if you could ever cover those massive fuzzy ears, Algoris chuckled up at Locta. Locta forced himself to smile at Algoris' joke, but stood stiff in clear discomfort. Valakor, however, found no time for humor, studying Locta carefully with his fiery orange eyes. The leap for him has not yet been made. He cannot proceed any further until he finds the ledge, sees the abyss, and makes that leap. Until he opens his eyes to his true self at last. Surely I could teach him, then bring him to you when he is ready? Algor suggested, stepping closer to Locta. Locta looked down at him, curious at the old Clonfiar's protectiveness of him. Valakor shook his head. No, time is short. This is not a matter of schooling, but a matter of faith. Let the Council and I use our faith to test his. Let the Creator show us the truth. He nodded at the other robed Clonfiar, all of them holding up the right hand as they eyed Locta. Golden white flames ignited in their hands. Locta looking all around him in fear at what was to happen next, and then Valakor held up his hand. It too glowed with flame, and Locta looked to Algoris. Algoris simply looked at him and gave an encouraging nod, as if expecting Locta to do something, but Locta had no clue what. Suddenly, with a loud hum of magic, the light from Valakor's and the Council's palms beamed directly into Locta's chest. He gasped at first, panicked as if being attacked, but then realized there was nothing to fear. The magical golden flame did not burn him, but simply warmed him. It brought peace to his frazzled mind, as well as something deeper. His panic breathing slowing as the golden white flame wrapped around his form. Locta felt like the embodiment of harmony itself. Like a discordant cacophony out of tune instruments and offbeat drumming finally brought into a rhythm and melody more soothing than all the music in the galaxy. What followed then was another sense. Power, authority, control. For once in his life, Locta truly felt as if he were in control. The winds did not blow him to lands unknown, for at last it all made sense. He was the wind and the vessel. He was whole. It does not pain him. It does not judge him, gasped Valakor in excited surprise at the holy flame's reaction to Locta, and Locta's reaction to it. He simply stood there, engulfed in the golden white flame, looking down at himself with a content smile, more at peace than he had ever been. All right, that's enough for now. Halt the spell, said Valakor with a hopeful smile. Valakor and the others dropped their hands, and the flame disappeared. However, though they were already convinced as is, that sense of power and harmony lingered within Locta. He followed it back to its source as if reaching out for the unknown, pulling it back. Harnessing this power within to his will, he held out his right hand before him, and to the surprise of him and everyone else, conjured his own holy flame in his palm. With his hand trembling, he held his palm out as it cradled the sphere of divine fire, showing everyone. The council standing around him began to whisper in awe at each other, and Valakor looked upon him in awe. It really is you. No mere mortal could harness the holy flame without years of practice and discipline to attune themselves, yet your soul is in perfect harmony. Algoris chuckled with a cheeky grin at Valakor. Told you. Now, let's get down to business before... Suddenly, their small celebration was interrupted by the sound of a loud slam reverberating through the chamber from behind. All of them turned about and looked in the direction of the open doors, seeing a silhouette with its back to the blinding light from outside, the silhouette of another Clopathian. An intruder! Who are you? Scoffed Valakor. The figure paced forth without answering, stepping into the light of the chandelier where his features became clearer. He was dressed in a simple brown robe, with a hood concealing all but his Clopathian snout beneath its black shadow. An air of unease and great power surrounded his presence. Then, without looking up from the shadow of his hood, he spoke. You already know me, but my true identity is not important. I have come to speak with Lacta. Me? Do I know you? Lacta stammered, wondering if it was a UCS agent sent to recapture him. Not the way you think, perhaps. Indeed, I was once a friend of your father's, but that is beside the point, said the figure with a low, foreboding tone in his voice. Lacta's ears perked up with a piqued interest as he heard the mention of his father. The figure continued. Lacta Felthmore, I must warn you that the path you are setting your feet upon is one I must advise against. Make no mistake, you are very powerful indeed, but these Clonfeyar seek to squander and use your power for their own gain. He pointed judgmentally at all the Clonfeyar standing around Lacta before speaking again. I suggest you turn away from them while you can. Go back home before you embark on a life you may yet regret. Regret? Lacta questioned the figure's words with a scoffing laugh. You're telling me to go back to the people who sought to throw me in prison for crimes I didn't commit? You're telling me to go back to the same people who wouldn't shed a single shred of sympathy if I laid down and died before them? You speak as if you hate them, but I think we both know otherwise, Lacta, said the figure with a dismissive shake of his head. No matter how much you want to, you can't hate them, because you are a part of them whether you like it or not. Lacta took a deep breath and sighed. You are correct. I can't make myself any less of a Clepathian, even if I wanted to, and I know the decay within them isn't the fault of any one individual, but I didn't come here to make myself enemies of them in the first place. He looked down to Algoris and then back at the figure. The Clonfeyar have given me insight on how maybe life can be different, and with their help, maybe I could show the Clepathians that there is another way to live. I don't even know where to begin, but even still, I've got nothing to go back to. The only possessions I have to my name are myself and this weapon of mine. This tattered uniform I wear isn't even mine, but the UCS military's. That can be remedied. The figure smirked as he held his hand up. Then, with a snap of his fingers, the entire chamber instantly filled with stacks of UCS currency marks, precious jewels, and other valuables. Lacta did a double take with his jaw agape at the piles all around him, never seeing so much wealth in all his life. The Clonfeyar standing beside him was stricken in awe as well. However, Lacta remembered his childhood and looked to the floor. He remembered how much of a burden his father once carried, all because of such rampant greed among Clepathians. If you truly knew my father, then you'd also understand his hatred for the greedy. Lacta looked up at the figure. In fact, it's because of greed why the Clepathian people are so sick and distressed in the first place. It solved nothing in the end. I'd dishonor his name and be a hypocrite if I were to take all this wealth as a bribe. I couldn't live with that. Oops. Is that so? Asked the figure with a steady stroke of his chin. I see you aspire greatly to follow in your father's dreams despite having so little time with him. If that is the case, then perhaps I have another proposition that will suit your desires. Behold the powers I possess, Lacta. Behold that which could also be yours. The figure waved his hand, and the mountains of wealth disappeared in an instant. He outstretched his arms by his side, and with a rumbling of great power resonating throughout the chamber, everything began to fade away like smoke in the wind. The High Lord, the council members, and Algoris slipped away like vapor. The palace walls, even the very floor, faded away too. Only Lacta and the figure were left as they walked upon air in an empty abyss, and then the figure pointed down below them. See now what could be if you just followed me. Lacta looked down below, and there he could see Glory Street directly below where they stood among the clouds. All along that wide street leading directly to the Capitol building were ranks and rows of Clepathians kneeling. Not one of them stood out of line. Looking to the Capitol, Lacta saw another figure standing high atop a raised platform, cloaked in garbs of royalty with a crown upon his head. It was a figure whom there were many monuments and statues of all around, and it was this figure Lacta recognized as himself. There he stood before them in this could-be future, all hailing to him and him alone. All the power and authority you could ever want. I could give it and more to you in an instant, said the figure. This future could be yours. See how they kneel before you and would heed your every whim. You could shape them into the people you want them to be, free whatever blemish that offends you. And all And all you have to do is turn away from your path and follow me. Locke peered down further in awe, the offering tugging at his mind and heart. Within the crowd and in the street were many faces of those who once hated him, even Scream kneeling before him. But so too was his friend, Crypto. Indeed, with his power, he could have his perfect society. But what of the future after? What of the future after Locke was gone? Would they really be better off if all they did was trade slavery to materialism and lust for slavery to a tyrant? Locke looked back at the figure. I think you misunderstand what I want. Is it not a society free of that which disgusts you, which you want? Asked the figure. Locke shook his head. It is, but not like this. I don't want to turn my people into slaves. I don't want to hurt them and imprison them, but to heal them and free them. If anyone's to follow me, I don't want it out of fear, but out of example, Locke said, remembering the not-so-distant past when Crypto told him of the sea wolves. He stared at the shadow of the figure's hood, and where his eyes would be. It is not my right to rule. It's a position I must earn to lead. And so you wish to set an example, prove those who doubt you wrong, and inspire hope within them, said the figure with a curious tilt of his head. Do you not already see the fruitlessness of that endeavor during your military training? Did you not see how those who hated you still remained firm in their ire even after you had grown so far in spite of their doubts? Locke sighed and nodded with his head hanging low. You may be right, but I still believe there has to be some way to redeem them, to find hope for them. He looked back up at the figure. All you're showing me is them trading one curse for another. The Clan Fayar can live clean and free, and they don't have tyrants. They have something else. They have faith, Locke said, pondering his last statement. He was starting to see now. It was not power, neither force of will, but faith. That was the difference between his people and the Clan Fayar, and perhaps that was the reason why he saw the Clan Fayar as far cleaner than any Clepathian he perceived. More pieces of the puzzle fell into place. The figure, with a most disdainful frown after being denied twice, waved away the illusion they stood over with a simple gesture of his hand. Once more they stood in the black abyss of smoke and fog, staring at each other. Locke could see clearer now, but so too could the figure see one more weakness within him. There was one last thing Locke clung to, one last passion to tempt. You have denied wealth, and you have denied power, but I am not willing to give up on you just yet. Even after all you have seen, you still remain so naive. I warn you that your people will not find redemption easily. You cannot even begin to understand the pain that awaits. Locke took a deep, steady breath. I know the path ahead will be painful. I know it will be one full of sacrifice, but I've already sacrificed everything. I've seen down the road of cowardice and the nothing it offers. I'm ready for the journey ahead, boasted Locke, but the figure almost grinned as he heard this. And what if I told you that you did not have to sacrifice anymore? That you did not have to feel pain anymore? Asked the figure with an oddly sympathetic tone. Locke's proud demeanor fell into fearful confusion. What do you mean? What if I told you, no, showed you, that I could turn back time? Proposed the figure. Imagine if your father never fell away from you. Imagine how life would be if you were never broken. If your family was whole again. He pointed towards Locke's sword. Locke didn't quite understand until he heard the sound of a voice he never thought he'd hear again. Locke? It called out. The figure instantly stepped aside. Several feet behind him stood Skywreath. Dad? Locke cried out, and almost instantly rushed him with tears in his eyes, heart fluttering in the sudden tsunami of emotion. Oh, bitrate. Skywreath and Locke embraced one another in their arms. You've grown so strong, Locke, said Skywreath. I missed you. I missed you every day. Locke sniffled, wiping tears from his eyes as he looked at Skywreath, but it was not how he remembered. He did not look up at him, but at eye level. He had grown, indeed. Come on, son. Let's leave this madness behind. Come home. Let's be a family again and forget about all of this, beckoned Skywreath, waving his hand towards the dark fog surrounding them. Let's make life simple again. How it used to be. Locke wished to return. Oh, how greatly it ached in his heart for him to return to the innocence of the past. But then he took a step back. He bit his lips and looked at the void he stood upon, then closed his eyes as he wept without a word, shaking his head in denial. Curious, the figure stood at Locta's side and questioned his reaction. "What's wrong, Locta? I know this is what you want. I can return you to your father, but you are reluctant. Why?" With a shaky, deep breath, Locta looked at Skyreath, then down at his hands, and finally back at the figure. "You're right. This is what I want. But I can't have it," sniffled Locta. "I've grown up. That life is behind me. And no matter how much I would love to go back, I can't. With all that I've learned, all the memories I possess, there's no way to go back to that innocence. There is only forward." "You'd give up your family, knowing all the pain and sacrifice you've endured, and have yet to suffer?" questioned the figure. "You deny all that I have offered for the unknown horrors of the future?" With a gulp and wipe of his eyes, Locta slowly nodded and spoke as if forcing himself to, because he did not want to. He did want to go back, but deep inside, he knew it was wrong. He knew he never could. Yes, all that's happened to me, by my own choice or not, be it mistake or triumph, has made me who I am today. I may not understand where I go, but I do know where I've been. "And you are satisfied with who you are?" asked the figure again, intrigued by Locta's answers. "No, but my life is far from done," said Locta. "Who would I be but a coward to go back out of fear and pain? Naivety, foolishness. It's not holding on to hope. No, the faith that the future can be different. No, naivety is being a coward about what the future may hold." Locta shook his head and boldly stared at the figure, feeling a surge of strange power swelling within. "I've lived the life of a coward before, longer than I realized until now. I've learned what comes of such idiocy firsthand, and who is to say I would not repeat it again even if I could return to such innocent ignorance? I am no longer afraid of facing the future, both for its victories and its failures." He stared daggers at the figure and pointed his clawed finger at him, making his proclamation clear. "I am done being a coward." The figure stepped back with a deep frown and warned him. "You are treading dangerous ground with such convictions, Locta," he hissed, enunciating every syllable. "I do not lie when I warn of the misery and anguish you will face, both in the near and far future, and your baseless hopes to deny reality. You would give up all that you have fought for, your own family, your old life, for a future you know not? That's what you fail to realize." "I already gave it up," said Locta. "That life shaped me into who I am. Those burdens will always be mine to carry. But the old Locta Felthmore, the faithless coward, is already dead. I have a new future, a new life, a new destiny. And it is a destiny that I choose. I choose." Locta swallowed his fear and his doubt, speaking with trembling lips and shaking hands as he let his courage shine forth. "To have faith. Faith in what?" The figure snarled in disgust. Locta looked up, thinking back to what Algoris told him. The faith the Clonfear follow, the faith the Carpathians once followed, was not one in them finding the Creator. It was one in the Creator finding them. At the time, Locta did not realize what Algoris meant, but as he stood here now, as the eyes of his soul opened to the events of the past and present around him, he finally began to understand. His perception, his name, his blood, his blade, the light, the magic, the force guiding him, the secret and the secrecy of Crypto, it all came together at last. He closed his eyes and then opened them, the irises glowing like shining gold as he spoke. "Faith in my Father above, the true Father whose hand has been guiding me all along just like predecessors before me." Locta unsheathed his sword and pointed it at the figure. "The very faith that allows me to see through your illusion for the demon you are." With a snarl, the figure looked up in fear, and there, within the shadows of his hood, the demon's eyes burning like red-hot coals. Feeling the power surge through him, Locta let the once dormant light laying within shine over his blade, and he cast it at the demon. Striking his body, the demon recoiled backwards as its illusory disguise was dispelled, His true form then arose like a massive beast of hateful flame and black shadows, its maw snarling at Locte as it spoke like 1,000 howls of hellhounds. You have made a terrible enemy this day, Locte Felthmore. By the blood of the guilty flowing through me, I swear my kind will hunt you from now until eternity. You will bleed. You will eternally suffer for all sins. And it will not end until you draw your last breath. Though fear swelled within Locte, he forced himself to look up into the demon's monstrous eyes. Then come, kill me if you must, but I will be ready. You know as well as I do that I will not give up, for from this day forward I will have faith, and not even death will take that from me. Suddenly, with a mighty ear-splitting roar, the beast of hell reared back its shadowy claws and swiped at Locte. Locte braced himself for the blow, but as soon as the claw struck him, all was silent. All was black. Stillness. There was only a sudden, perfect stillness. Then, from within, he began to feel again. Slowly, he felt himself coming back to a point in time and space, his physical senses returning to him. He could smell, feel, and then hear. Look! He stirs! Locte heard the sound, muffled and difficult to discern at first, but then he recognized it as the voice of Algoris. As he felt his eyes turn beneath his eyelids, he raised them open, and the light poured into his large downward-slit pupils once more. Algoris and the other Clonfear were standing there, somehow standing on the side of the wall through some magical means. Rather, Locte soon realized, it was that he was laying sideways on the floor. He rolled over and put his hands on the floor to push himself upon his knees, but then paused as he saw his hands. They were changed. Instead of having 4 clawed digits on each, he now had 3, 2 larger fingers and a thumb. They were still clawed the same from the second knuckle out, and he could still feel and manipulate them just fine, but they were changed nonetheless. Even more so, his tail felt far heavier on his back than he remembered. He looked back behind him, and as true to its weight, his tail had grown much larger. It was the same length, but tapered like that of a Clonfear's, wide at its base and becoming narrow at the tip, but was still covered in charcoal fur. The tail cap at its tip morphed to fit its bigger size, but it was not the only garment which had changed. As Locte stood up, looking over his new self, he saw that he was covered in a strange suit of armor, appearing the same glossy black texture of his blade, trimmed. Locte then reached for the blackened tears at his hip, and soon realized, as he grabbed its hilt, a surge of power coursed back and forth between him and the blade. He pulled the blade from his hip, and saw that both its broad sides were marked with 3 strange runes. A 4th rune at its broad arrowhead-like tip of the blade was a rune he recognized, the Felthmore family seal. As he studied them, the runes occasionally pulsed with a golden-white light before fading. Sheathing his blade at his side, Locte continued to look over himself. As far as he could tell, only his hands, his tail, and this armor was new, still startling nonetheless. What happened to me? Why is my tail so big, and why do I have 3 fingers instead of 4? The last thing I remember was talking to you, and then there was some kind of robed figure, and I... He trailed off, the memories foggy and fading by the second, as if they were being pulled away from him. Only traces of that dream remained. You have taken on a form similar to your predecessor, said Algoris. He looked much as you do now, though his armor and blade were white. Curious, yours are the opposite. Valacord nodded, then explained further, trying to ease Locte's confusion. When we channeled the light into you, you slipped into unconsciousness. There you were tested, offered 3 lies. The fact you stand here, changed as you are now, shows you have passed, that you are the savior. So, all of that was a fake? None of it really happened? Locte scratched the back of his head with his right hand, still trying to get used to having only 2 fingers and a thumb. And what's the point of having fewer fingers? This is only going to make things more difficult. Well, at least the big strong tail's kind of cool, I guess. He looked over his shoulder and wiggled his now powerful tail to the left and right. Algoris smiled up at him. Oh, it was real, and it did happen. You were not asleep, so to say, but rather taking a vacation from your body. Your spirit, you, left your body behind to do battle against the demons which have followed you from the womb. All of us have such demons, and you have defeated yours, he explained. Make no mistake, that does not mean they are slain forever, for they will still tempt you again in time. Perhaps not so directly, but you have shown you can fight against them. pointing to Logda's new, larger tail. As for your physiological changes, it's mostly symbolic. Your three digits represent the hand of the your three digits represent the hand of the triune nature of the Creator. That is penance, zeal, and of course, faith. Whether you have noticed it or not, your tail also has implications. You will notice your shiny tail cap is purely decorative now, with nothing to conceal beneath. You turned me into a girl? Locked almost snapped into a panic, putting his hands on his cheeks. No, no, no! Algor shook his head, trying to calm him down. In fact, you are physically neither. You have ascended past such physical things as biological reproduction. He smirked. In fact, when your predecessor came here to our ancestors, it was recorded that he too was quite confused as to why he was the way he was. He was not altered as you are, still having a slender tail and 4 digits like a regular Carpathian, but functionally similar to you, as you are now. One thing he did find fortunate was that he did not have to, relieve himself after eating or drinking. You don't have those capabilities either. Algoris laughed. Locta, however, was not amused. Now he was more of a freak than before. Well, I'm glad you find it amusing, but now how am I supposed to reach my people now? The fact that I was a weirdo was why they hated me in the first place. He scoffed and folded his arms. By showing them the truth lies beyond the flesh, said Algoris, no longer laughing this time. As I said, your new form is purely symbolic. Physically, you are no more or less capable than you were before, not to a significant or permanent degree, at least. The first one who must learn to see past the flesh before you can make others see is yourself. That is what I will teach you as my ancestors were taught before. You have tasted the truth and light of the Creator. You can feel its spark buzzing within you, but you have a long way to go before you can truly kindle it into the fire it can become. Locta took a breath as he looked at his new hands, glanced behind him at his thick tail, and then sighed with a conceding nod back at Algoris. All right, I suppose. Guess we'd better get started then. No one said it would be easy. Far from it, in fact. Algoris said, We should begin as soon as possible. Now, if you'll follow. Algoris turned about to head out of the palace, but was then interrupted by the great doors creaking open. This time, it was not a Clepathian Locta saw, but a Clonfear sprinting towards them. High Lord Valakor! High Lord Valakor! The runner shouted between panting, exhausted breaths. Slow down, take a breath, and speak clearly, said Valakor with a steady and firm voice. What brings you so urgently to the palace? Taking a few quick and deep breaths as he leaned forward with his hands on his knees, the Clonfear gave his dire news. The UCS! They're here! Amassing their fleet at the edge of the system. What? How? Valakor blinked in shock. The planetary cloak should have rendered it impossible. The runner shook his head. I don't know. One of the ship commanders suspected they may have been followed after rescuing Locta. They must have had some kind of tracking device on me. Locta shook his head as he palmed his face. Damn it! They'll probably be here with full force as well. And we only have a planetary peacekeeper force, not an army to fight a war. So one of the council members, why is that there? Another council member raised a question. What about the drones we use to fool them on the decoy worlds? They're not programmed to fight, only to give the illusion of it. They're useless, said the first member. Locta rubbed his temples in frustration, feeling as if he were at fault for making this mess. But he was not a coward anymore. He would not run away and sulk about his mistakes. Rather, he would take responsibility for them. Now was better place to start than ever. He swallowed his fear and spoke up. If I may offer something that might help. The UCS has grown rather, arrogant in its invasion tactics. They haven't fought in an actual war for thousands of years. From what I recall, their tactics are usually one-sided, funneling all efforts into a single brute force front entirely of infantry. If they tracked me here, chances are this valley is where they'll funnel their attacks first. Yes, you know how they fight better than we do. Is there anything we could do to prevent the bloodshed to come? Asked Valakor. Locta looked back at Valakor. Maybe. But I'll need some specific supplies. You have means to cloak yourselves from detection, as well as at least a few capable of fighting, at least. Yes, but we don't have the numbers. Our security forces are few compared to the Clepathian fighters, and most are part-time volunteers. If you're suggesting we meet them head-to-head on battle, then I cannot allow that. Valakor shook his head. Lokta then looked out to the still open doors to the palace. Outside, he heard the sounds of those hovering jet cycles as well, spurring even more ideas in his head. No, I don't plan to fight them, not if I can avoid it. However, if I must, I think I know a way how, if absolutely necessary. And I'm gonna need a lot of those jet cycles to do so. Ooh, alright. So that was chapter 16. So, Lakta returned with the Clan Fiar. Lakta returned with the Clan Fiar and was brought before High Lord Valakor and underwent a sort of illusory, dreamlike trial in a sense against his own spirit. And after so, he arose, now somewhat physically altered. He still looks mostly Clepathian, just somewhat altered in a bit. And this is a symbolic sort of thing for him to see past the flesh in order to see purely through spirit. Just to get rid of his biases. He basically looks how he does on the cover now. See, he's got the 3 digits on the hand and the thicker tail. But now, after the fact, after he awoke, though Valoron, not Valoron, though Algoris wanted to train him, it seems the UCS has found the Clonfayar homeworld of Purgatory and intends to strike and murder them all. Oh man, there was an Arcanine in chat and I missed it. Shit. Let's see. Take a drink and a break here, or a quick break. Well, we only have 10 minutes. I don't know if that's enough to read this next chapter. Let's see, how many pages does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, maybe we'll save this chapter for next time. Because it's taken like an hour or 30 minutes per chapter. But this next chapter is generally a bit shorter than the others, so it won't take too much to catch up. However, we are close to the end of part 1 here, which should be interesting. And we'll get on to part 2. I hope you guys are enjoying the story so far. And are able to forgive my stuttering and whatnot. I did enlarge the text as well. Maybe I'm hoping this made it easier to read along for those who wanted to. If needed, I can enlarge it even further. But I did bump it up by like 20% to make it more readable for those who might want to read along. Alright. But now, we shall switch over to Fallout New Vegas and continue our playthrough of Antiquated Andy. Let me just go ahead and change the titles and whatnot, the thingy things here. That. All right. Settings. Now I just need to open Steam. We'll be get there in just a jiffy. How's everybody doing, by the way? Hope you guys are still doing nicely. Well, New Vegas, properties, browse local files. Just gotta launch it through NVSE. Hydrate and stretch. Oh, welcome on in, Astros. Enjoy a cup of coffee. Got that. I don't know if you just arrived or not, but we just ended reading for the day. Let's see. I need to get Follows New Vegas open. NVSE loader. It was about 10 minutes ago. Alright. Cool. Oh, well, that broke. Yep. So, to recap, Astros, what happened... Well, I don't know. If you want to watch the VOD, if you prefer to watch the VOD. Don't spoil? Okay. Or rewatch the VOD? Alright. Alright, let me just get this captured here. Yeah, but we'll just say lots of things happened today. Fun things. And now it's time for some smooth jazz.
I hope I didn't leave my giant robo-scorpion on. That thing eats power like no tomorrow.
The giant robo-scorpion. Hello, Onward. Welcome on in. We just finished reading for the day. Fun things. Oh, cute. You're cute. Thank you for the teen scratch. I considered reading a little more, but it'd probably take like another 30 minutes for that other chapter. But we are close to the end of, what is it? Part 1 of the story. I think there's only 2 more chapters left in part 1. And then we enter part 2. Really? Took you long enough to hit. Bam! Sharpshooter extraordinaire. Radiation. Oh, I have rad poisoning. Not radiation poisoning. I don't know what I'm taking radiation damage from. Makes no fucking sense. There's nothing here. Where am I going? Oh no, I want to do this one. I want to do all my friends have off switches first. I want to make sure I get all that. Too many wild animals. I could fast travel to that one, but may as well keep going this way. Ah, I remember this place. So the only problem with the Old War Blues is that the enemies very quickly keep respawning. Like, you don't get breaks. They're very different compared to how other NPCs respawn. Let's see. Anything else around here? I don't think so. Now, to get up on top of the roof, I need to, like, do some platforming. There we go. There's a good message right there. Chat is cute. There we go. Elijah's advanced lair. So the lair is actually a really fun weapon. The only downside to it is that it runs out of durability very quickly. You know, giving back. Says I'm in danger, but from what, I don't know. I also know there's stuff over there. Get over there. Be a little difficult. Actually, no. Just gotta do this. That thing is a damage sponge and a half. Jeez Louise. Game's kind of loud. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. I mean, to be fair, I am shooting at a plant, and you know, plants don't really bleed. Not to be like what? How you doing, Cookout? Get out of here and give me some money too. I also got a bunch of Brock flowers and Xander roots here, which we can make stim packs and stuff with. Well, let me do something here. Widen the chat window so I can see it better. Let's see. Anything cool? Nope. Ow! Alright, who put all the landmines on the pipes? And I'm out of stim packs. Oh yeah, I forgot I'm low on 8 items. From last time. Oh, we got some Sunset Sparse Badidly.
See how I abstract my rage, think tank? I hold you in such disdain, I generalize my hatred for you!
Damage sponge! I imagine a flamethrower would make short work of them. Why is Badidly so sparse? Yeah, it says it right there on the tin. See, Sunset Sparse Badidly. Hope you're doing well, Boxy. Well, come on in. What am I did I just shoot the air in front of me? Ah, here we go. That's my sleeping pose. Look at this guy. Two-headed poisonous trog. Sounds like something you'd call someone you don't like. You two-headed poisonous trog. Samsung Sunset Skadoodle. Yep, that too. Hope your stream went well. Kinda missed it today. My lazy ass didn't get out of bed until I had like 20 minutes before stream. I made a really quick spam sandwich, shot down some coffee, and got started. Oh wait, there's a sea bag over there. Some cave fungus. You can't spell fungus without fun. Some dried brock flour. Alright. Got a cook pot. We got meeting people in a bag. Some more brock flour. That's good for making stuff.
Do you think you can hide from me? You just made my day.
Okay, I need...
Kill them all. God will understand.
Oh! No one gave you permission to rush up here like that. Sir. I'm gonna have to ask you to settle down. What am I still in combat with? It still says caution. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The enemies respawn so quickly in this place. I need to level up. What the... Can I help you? Oh god! Oh shit! Oh shit! Ah, no! No, no, no! Oh, no! Oh! Oh my god! Ah. Okay! Well, it's not on the wall anymore. Cheers, lad. Thanks for the heads up. See, them's good eating. All living creatures have 50% potent heating items, thin red paste, or blood sausage. Let's see. Consuming Night Stalker squeezins. It's a bonus to perception, poison resistance, stealth. For an eye, explorer. Explorer's good. I'll probably take them's good eating. Because, oh, okay. I need healing. Nothing in that bag. There's nothing around here that still has me in caution. It's not those things that notice me, it's something else. I mean, my sneak skill isn't very good, but still. I was out there in the place Elders call outside using all the agents my camera gave me to spray and pray photos to at least get one good one. Nice, nice. What the fuck is shooting at me? What's shooting at me? Oh my goodness. It just appeared. Illegal operation detected. I'm almost there. Almost back to safety. Oh my goodness, oh no. Hey, at least my favorite song on this radio station is playing. But I managed to take a photo of British scone-shaped plane. Nice. Eurofighter Typhoon. Is that shaped like a scone? I don't know. Confession, I actually don't know what a scone looks like.
Might I be of service, sir?
Yes, I need equipment. I need a healing. Why won't he repair my other outfit? Look, repair everything except my sheriff's duster. Okay, go over to the bed. We'll rest here. And I think we have the, we have this thing. This thing's a bit, weird.
Ooh, oh yeah, baby. Feels good to be online again. Yeah, all circuits online. Ready to receive your seed.
What?
Your seed, baby. I'm the original, certified, rarefied, testified GS-2000 biological research station. Yes, sir. I'm a seed cloning machine. You got seeds? I'll clone the shit out of them.
Alright. I'd like to... Okay. Process, seed into planter. There we go. So now we have a bunch of seeds that'll grow here in this sort of farm, which is pretty nice. Can make healing powder. How do I make... Stim pack. Make it. We can also make salient green. Not soylent green, salient green. which can then be used to make other plant seeds. Oh, we can make Simpacks. We just need empty syringes, which I have none of. Well, I have 2. What about a super Stimpact? I don't know if I can make those. Actually, what else? I need to find where what it takes to make an armor repair kit. I need duct tape, hammer, leather belt, scrap metal, wonder glue. Probably have to... I think the leather belt will probably be the hardest to find. Oh! Okay, never mind. Hammer. I have scrap metal, wonder glue, wrench. I just need a belt. Oh, a bunch of case. Oh, primer boxes. Hello. Hello. Name's Bruce. Alright, let's make some more 4570 SWC hand load. I need lead, actually. Oh, okay. Also, for all intents and purposes, scones are triangular in shape. Just don't say that to Yo-Yo. Okay. I'll be sure to tell her that scones are triangles. Just without context. Fancy lads. I consider myself a fancy lad. Alright, let's go back out on our adventure. Okay, we'll go here. Let me get this. Would you guys be in the mood for accordion music? Sure. Okay, that alright. I did not want to drink the water. A missile? Every time I see missile, I keep... all I can think of is that Star Fox Assault mission. But the asteroid missile appears. It's like, a missile? Fox, you've got to shoot down that missile. Missile? Alright, we gotta go here. There's gonna be a lot of things we're gonna have to collect here, which is good, though, because we're gonna get a lot of XP killing things along the way. Which wouldn't be needed to up skills for the necessary checks. Sterilizer glove. Oh, whoa, whoa. Ow. What the? How? What am I? How am I not hitting him? It's like I'm shooting at him, and it's just clinking against the big metal hitbox there. Yeah, it's just, he's just invincible. There's just a piece of metal in the way. Okay. Fine. Get over here. This is stupid. God. Like a part of, I like the one part of Norway displaying its F-16. I think the pilot overshoot the runway while trying to land, so he pulled up with his gear still down and popped 2 flares and acted like it was all planned. Smooth. So, I meant to do that. So I can make weapon repair kits. I need to make an armor repair kit. For that, I need leather belt. I need a 4 strength, 4 stamp leather belt. Level 18. Ah!
I hope you are enjoying the French Connection, only on Old World Radio. Beware of those damn death claws out there. One time
Didn't fool many. The announcer said he's cleared to land right before he'd done that.
with my arms and legs off. It made me cry hydraulic fluid. I want my mommy.
All right. How are literally none of those bullets hitting? Come on. Oh, they were hitting. It's just, it's a tough nut. And its name was Super Ego. Interesting. He also had a sterilizer glove. Ooh, Higgs Village. Any leather belts? Oh, there is a bobby pin. Well, that's a bobby pin. Oh. Alright, we're gonna go in an orbit around these houses here, because each one has something in them. And each one of these are houses of the brain people.
La fille de joie est belle, au coin de la rue là-bas. Elle a une clientèle qui lui remplit son bar. Quand son boulot s'achève, elle s'en va à son tour, chercher un peu de rêve dans un bar du faubourg. Son homme est un artiste, c'est un drôle de guitare, un accordéoniste qui sait jouer la java.
Squirrel stew. It's kind of funny the fridge handles being like that, because that's also kind of like how a Clepathian door handles are. Because they can't turn knobs with how big their claws are. At least not comfortably. So they have to use levers to open everything. Highball. Well, I mean, for a place that's been abandoned for 200 years, it actually looks in fairly decent condition. Takes some work, but it'd be livable. Someone doesn't like Mr. House, throwing knives at him. Let's see, which one is this one? Alcohol. Leather belt? Found leather belt. Some sparse but diddly, good to see. How's there a Brahmin steak in here?
Il y a un autre artiste qui joue toute la nuit. Elle écoute la java, elle entend la java, elle a fermé les yeux, les doigts secs et nerveux. Ça lui rentre dans la peau par là-bas, par là.
I'll leave that there for now. Ooh, Dr. Klein scrub, so it can actually be useful. Really? Wow, by 1 point. Okay. This is good because it provides +2 to science and stuff. Which will be nice for when we need to pass some speech checks. There we go. It's all those Sunset Sparse Badidley bottles. So that was Dr. Klein's house. What about this one? TV's a little off-center. Oh, Mentats. Oh, mother of Mentats. Someone loves their Mentats. And soda. To be fair, I don't think I could blame them. It'd be very easy to accidentally get addicted to something that makes you temporarily smarter. Apparently a side effect of the Mentats in the game is migraines. Unsurprising. There's a snubble in chat if anyone wants it.
Hello there again, boys and girls. I hope you are enjoying the French Connection, only on Old World Radio. I will now play a string of songs and get shit-faced once again. You know how Pierre loves to get shit-faced.
Oh.
Hate, recognize, and relate. Peace out.
Interesting. Alright, here we go. Really? Armor repair kit didn't do anything with this. That's fucking... No! I took it off and now I'm naked! I can't put it back... Fine. I'll put on the spacesuit. That would look fucking ridiculous. What the hell? That is very interesting. All right. Oh. No, I don't want the Jolly Roger. Alright. Door to 104. Let's see. What do we got? A long loading screen, evidently. Ah, yes. Interesting. Because loading the inside of a house is just too much for a game to handle. Shit. Technology. Do not have that many plugins. That is a lie. Hello, Sanaza. Good to see you. Welcome on in. Oh, interesting place here. And some sexy sleepwear. I mean, it could wear Benny's suit, I guess. Oh, I look like a jerkwad. Alright, we've been to all the houses now. There's one more thing left to get here. Tiny, angry Deathclaw. What are you doing? Shoot! What? What? What's happening? What? Why are you shooting now? What? What? You're kidding. How in the ever-loving fuck did none of those shots hit? There it goes again, for some reason, even though I'm already done reloading. What is with this bug? Finally. Okay, I need to get the bowl. Gabe's bowl. Ooh, sweet. It doesn't work, though. At least you actually hit him this time, yeah. What is this? Dr. Klein's helmet. What? Why are there two of them? Oh, okay. It's modded stuff. power armor. Science-y power armor. Oh, wow.
There's a 95% chance of clear skies interrupted with artillery fire.
It looks very oversaturated outside. It's like exposure has been set to maximum. I know it's telling us to go to X8. But there is something up here as well. Fix my PC. Hey, well done. Where am I going? Not that way. Where's the entrance to this place? The cuckoo's nest. I think it's over here. Oh, there it is. Factory resetting. Oh no.
Thank you for tuning into the French
What was broken with it?
only on Old World Radio. I hope you save your bottle caps and don't spend too much at casinos. One time I won the jackpot, but they took my winnings and said that
Oh shit! Dude threw an axe at me. That was fast.
my circuits and drop kicked those motherfuckers. I took my winnings back and killed everyone, but then my creator yelled at me and said I was grounded.
Jeez Louise. Thought I read a message that froze partway through one. Wouldn't stop freezing or restarting itself. Aggressively loud static. Brokey. How do they run that fast while being perfectly accurate? It's worse than Mass Effect 2. Something I remember hating, absolutely hating, about Mass Effect 2 was how fast the enemies would run while being perfectly accurate.
So fucking drunk I fell down the stairs again on my way to the bathroom to take a piss. Ouch. Oh, it
Chewing.
hurts.
No, I need that.
Ouch.
They're not cheap to replace.
Fucking hell. I can't freeze. Oh well. That's amusing. The show must go on. Shit.
There we go. Get fucked, test subject 1. Oh, he has the protonic inversal axe. That is, like, one of the strongest melee weapons in the game. Oh, that's why it was killing me. He had a fucking hunting revolver. Shit. On your desk. Well, you can enjoy that. It's a very big, very tough, very hard desk. Probably not going to get very far. That's safe. Carry on.
We will take Jerusalem.
Thank you so much for the follow, Wheelie Husky. Welcome to the Coffee Crusade. Do not have a tasty... Don't eat my desk. I need that.
Might I be of service, sir?
Yes. I don't know why I was talking to this guy. I need to store some things, actually. Just throw some crap in this trunk. So, the funny thing is, my desk doesn't even really have legs. It's got little stumps that you screw in. This seems impossible to replace for some dumb reason. That might be useful. Oh, I forgot I had big order steaks. Oh, shit. Well, let's make a couple stim packs here.
Might I be of service, sir?
I don't know what this song is, but I hate it. It sounds very weird. What is this? Oh yeah, I forgot. Some of these are just radio shows.
Perhaps, sir, we care to
What is this one?
and I might serenade, sir, with the dulcet tones of a light opera.
Wait, I don't need to be here. Pokemon giving those ellipsy arms look more like mouths. Wait, what? Oh, other way. This way.
From the far horizon to the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future. Adventures in which you'll live in a million could be years on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Smith & Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction, presents X minus 1.
This is so stupid and cheesy.
Tonight's story, Hello Tomorrow.
Why are there so many mines on the green pipes?
After the Third Atomic War, when the Earth was a mass of red radioactive dust, a handful of men and women went deep underground and struggled for survival. A new civilization was born deep underground, a civilization that must keep a ceaseless vigil against the deadly gamma rays which filter down through the Earth. A civilization where the prime consideration is the genetic survival of the race. It is to this civilization in the year of our Lord, 1995,
God. They just don't stop.
Hello, dear. How is the director of emotional stability? My, how impressive that sounds. Sorry.
As long as it's just a,
You sound tired.
just a kiss. Oh. Oh, gulping. Mm-hmm. See, that shit ain't fair right there. You couldn't even see that thing. ball out old Vegas. Yes. What the fuck? Oh.
I know.
I don't know if shooting the head actually should do anything, because, there's nothing in there. It's head empty. Oh. Oh. He's going for fisticuffs. Ow. I'm pressing V and it's not giving me... I can't VATS. He's like immune to VATS. Jeez. This place is awful.
Oh, there's my door signal. I'll have to hang up now. See you later. Yes. Yes.
Just walking around minding my business. These people just can't handle someone walking around having no business, minding their business.
Horrible? It all depends on your viewpoint. I happen to have a twisted leg. My parents were genetically unsound.
Okay.
Yes,
Things hit here a little too hard.
I see. No, sir. I was expecting
Jeez Louise, like,
abnormal.
Sawyer and Big Mountain, yeah.
the phylogenetic
Extremely annoying damaged sponges that never stop spawning.
breathe the pure air of the upper levels and linger
The DLC.
You seem quite well
first years of my life.
And I hate that effect on the Protectrons. I don't know what mod adds that, but I need to find out and remove it because it's just not fun
My mother
to be blind. Like, blurry shit in the game is awful.
That would explain your obviously low threshold of emotional control.
And it also does an assload of knockback. AoE damage.
seem to be struggling to repress a few feelings yourself.
We will confine ourselves to the impersonal aspect of our work.
Okay, got some Sunset Sparse Bedidly at
I
least.
shall require you as a demonstration for a lecture I'm delivering to one of my classes.
A knife and a plunger.
At your service.
Sit here, please.
I have no idea what's going on with this radio show. It's just background noise to me now.
Calibrate your electrochemical tension.
I'm quite familiar with the procedure.
Oh, here we go.
I realize that as an imperfect I am expendable, but I should hate to be electrocuted.
The charge is not lethal.
PC is still broke. It's doing loud static and freezing and restarting itself. Weird.
No, you have beautiful.
Plus 12 at a depth of 4 centimeters.
Like, when did this start happening?
Minimal requirements for genetic code.
Lovely blue eyes.
10 at 7 centimeters.
Pretty. A perfect woman.
When I got back from holiday. Huh.
No,
You didn't leave it on during holiday, did you?
heart of stone. Like all the rest of you, perfect survival type.
Shut up.
Hmm.
Do you have feelings?
I don't think.
It's nothing, dear.
No? Hmm. What could be causing this?
This is the director of emotional control, the third officer.
Depending on how it's freezing.
As Mr. Director.
Power surge, it could be something like that. Also, depending on how it's freezing,
Quite impertinent.
it could be a number of things. It could be the RAM has gone bad.
Use him, ship him back to the cages. Probably.
It could be a number of things. Like, if it's just blue screening, then that just means you need to reinstall, or probably need to reinstall Windows, sadly. But if that's not the, if that didn't fix it, then it's a hardware issue. And I've always associated things like that, like hardware issues like that, with RAM going bad.
As you know, most imperfects are destroyed.
I installed Windows with the factory reset. Yeah. So that means it's got to be a hardware issue of some sort.
Are segregated in cages on the lower level of
You said you got a 4070 recently. Do you have a power supply that's capable of supporting a 4070? Because it might just be squeezing too much out of the power, or like not have enough power to it and causing issues. Like if you got the 4070, try unplugging, or try taking it out and putting the new one or the old one back in, and see how stable it is with that. We got the 4070. Oh, okay, okay. Okay, so it can't be that then. Weird. Yeah, I honestly want to say it might be a RAM issue, but it's hard to tell without actually taking a thorough look at it. It's definitely a hardware issue. For reinstall of Windows didn't fix it.
The effect on my hereditary factors is quite apparent in this twisted leg.
How long have you had the thing? Or how old is it? Because it could also be... It could also be a hard drive going bad. Because I remember, when my last hard drive went bad, a while back, a long while back, I noticed it start to perform incredibly slow, and then eventually I just couldn't access the hard drive at all. It just didn't work. So before someone did turn it on, I was gone, I left it on, I've had it for a year, probably two. Huh. I don't know. It's just gonna take some more research into the specific issue. Like the exact process of what you're doing and whatnot. Because depending on how old the components are, it could just be degradation. But normally, if your thermals are okay, degradation shouldn't be an issue unless it's extremely old. Why am I going back here? Yeah, jingle, jingle, stars, spirits. My stars go jingle, jingle. YouTube pooper. Oh, okay. That's what that explains the reverse.
Might I be of service, sir?
What am I doing here? Oh, we're gonna make some, stim packs, maybe? I don't know. Can I? Probably not. Nope. Let's see here.
Walter, how could you?
In my capacity as Director of Emotional Stability, it is my...
A bunch of mod conversions.
What are you going to do?
Specimen XJ12 will be disposed of quite systematically by the state. For the good of the state, for the good of the genetic code, and in the name of emotional stability.
The thing is, it's mainly when I open a game it happens, or when I'm launching the PC. Yeah. Try opening up the case, taking out the RAM sticks and then putting them back in, making sure they're seated securely.
He's emotionally unstable. You have to expect irrational behavior.
Make sure it's off while you're doing this, of course.
You see, I'm having manipulated for your sake. He has an upsetting effect on you.
Then send me back to the cages. But don't kill him.
You speak of destroying an inferior creature as if it was something unethical.
Walter, please, for my sake.
I understand that you have entered...
Okay, this radio show is kind of boring me. Let's see.
Yes. I was too upset
What do we got?
It came as a great disappointment.
I can't listen to the thing.
I was...
Curse!
linked to a stable personality such as mine. You might
8-bit hits? No.
if you were married to me, I...
Billy Bob's Bunker. What is this? Oh, okay. Here we go. This is the song of my people. The song of the Southeast. That stream, I missed enough of it. Well, kind of sad I missed the last story time. Keep in mind, all my story VODs are exported to my archive channel on YouTube. So you can always, check out the archive channel for any stories you missed. Or segments of story you missed. But I love me some YouTube poops. Oh man, Uncle Phil, you gotta kick that man's butt. Oh, you like begging you, Phillips. Man, kick my butt. Thanks, you should. Interesting. I'm sure it's a lot better in video form, because reading it, it's just like the ramblings of a madman. I used to love watching the YouTube poops when I was a kid. I still liked watching them every now and then. But I remember I used to be super into them. I thought they were the funniest shit. The old dinner spaghetti days. Like, also got my shark avatar. Yeah, I heard you the other day. You got your shark avatar. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Is it the one I'm thinking of, or is it something else? I don't know. I don't know if you posted a picture of it or not. And I don't know if our time zones overlap. For us to ever actually, hang out often in VRC. Post pics later? Gotcha. I know Sunday, I'm going to be watching a movie with someone. Hopefully. And then after that, I don't know what's gonna happen. I might just hang around or so. Oh, you're from the South? Yes. Born in Texas, spent most of my life in South Carolina, and now I'm in Alabama. Just cute. That's mean. Might grab my old Quest 2 and play some VRC sometime. Yeah. What a lovely shot. I do love the banjo, though. See, bluegrass, it's just redneck speed metal. Or hillbilly speed metal. Gotta help me fetch them ketchup packets for the winter. Oh, you done did it now, Arbuckle. Makes me wonder how would Fallout be in Texas, Brotherhood of Steel with large Texas Galoon hats, wielding double-barrel laser shotguns. Oh, that would be cool. I think these fungi, these mushrooms can be used to make, rat away. But, are you familiar with Hearts of Iron 4? Vaguely, I haven't played it. I played Hearts of Iron 3. I didn't really like it that much. Ooh, Stimpak. That was nice. I like that one. Yep. Alright, let's see. More Robo-Scorpions? Ah, jeez. I was not expecting lyrics. Mysterious cave. What's this? Oh no, I think I might know what this is. I don't want to deal with Cazadors again. Well, there's a mod for it that puts the Fallout Wasteland, and we have so far East Coast, bit of Canada, Texican? Texas territories, and entirety of Mexico available for play. Want to play as BOS in Montana? We got that. NCR, sure. Tribal Nation of Mirelurk Worshippers, yep. Super Mutants, we got it all. Down to Atomic Wrangler, we got Power Armor made up of our milk. Ah yes, the milk of human kindness. Equipment and unlocking it is confusing. I'd love to, like, play like an actual, like, just RTS of Fallout. Not like a grand strategy like Hearts of Iron, but like an RTS sort of game. Kind of like Galactic Battlegrounds or something. Like something in that sort of style, like AoE 2 or something style. Oh. Yep, it's exactly as I feared. Alright. Okay, maybe we need a bit, maybe a bit more spunk before we are able to take this thing on. Okay. Well, migrating mutants building a base against a group of raiders. Something like that. Or... I don't know, I guess it depends on whatever faction I choose to play.
Oh, Klein, did I mention that my zone is forbidden to you?
Like, you'd have, like, different factions. Or oh my god, Mobius, shut the fuck up. Anyways. I hate that announcement thing. Like, something like each faction or civ would, like, have its own little perks and whatnot, like, own little strengths and weaknesses. Like, for example, I imagine Brotherhood of Steel faction would be a very strong, like, defensive civilization. All about turtling and stuff. Because it kind of just fits their nature. NCR would be very, like, economic and expansionist. You know what I mean? Very infantry-focused. Legion would be, like, melee infantry-focused. Have, like, a lower tech, but, like, good farming benefits, that sort of thing. Like, all the factions and sub-factions and whatnot, like, having their own little traits. You can see it. Yeah. Oh my god, what is shooting at me now? Just leave me alone. See, it'd be different if they also fought each other, but they're always singling me out. Like, why? Come on. Dro. How did you get up here? No. I think the worst part is that all these enemies in Big Mountain scale with you, unlike every other enemy in the game. They always scale with you. So, it just gets harder and harder as you get better, or as you level up. Good XP, though. You know, I might have an idea for that. Combine Arms is a mod for Command & Conquer, which pins every faction in the franchise against each other, so the possibility of having a game like Fallout RTS wouldn't be a bad idea. Just need the archetypes. Yeah. You just basically need the civilization framework, like what their general themes are, and come up with... I think the hardest part would probably just be, like, all the artwork for all the units and whatnot. Because all the, like, technical stuff, especially in those older games, isn't super complex. Like, it's fairly simple. It's just a lot of, like, math and balancing, but in a philosophical sense, it's fairly simple. It's just getting all the art assets and whatnot working properly. Like all the sprites, because each sprite, at least in those older isometric type games, usually has like 6 frames. Well, they have a bunch of frames, and then they have 6 different directions, depending on where they're walking. Raiders, settlers, tribals, and such. Yeah. Nice face.
Try to leave your dome, think tank, and you will be punished by the pincered might of my Robo-Scorpion army.
Have we got Muggy yet? No, we're going through the quest to get all the thingies. I think 80 science is high enough for the speech checks. I'm not sure. We've got enough repair as well. I'm also trying to, like, level up all my skills necessary to get, I guess, the quote-unquote good ending for this. So I know medicine is one. Speech, well, might need that as well. Alright. Lots of fucking perks, holy shit. Let me see, do I have... I wonder. I wish I could see, like, which things I already have. I need charisma for animal friend. Fuck. Explorer's nice to just have. Stone, scrap. Cells, definitely caps. Yeah, stone, scrap. Food, yeah. So yeah, you have a simple 4-resource system of that.
Man's damn stowed on the store now. Well, mama down the stairs and she wants a tobacco bag.
Like, I could easily see, like, a Age of Empires or Galactic Battlegrounds mod for it. It's just, again, getting the art assets would be difficult. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't be too difficult, because if you could basically just rip them from, like, Fallout 1 and 2, a lot of them, because that's already kind of in an isometric format, and you just have to basically rip them and then trace over them. There's Muggy. Yeah, you. Got any mugs? I actually do have some mugs.
I am online once again! Tremble world before my electric heating coil of doom!
Tremble, you're a toaster. How fearsome can you be?
A toaster is just a death ray with a smaller power supply. As soon as I figure out how to tap into the main reactors, I will burn the world!
Well, I, for one, am quaking in my boots.
Buddy, if my heating element were just a little bigger, you'd be on fire right now! On fire!
Well, the rage.
Have you ever tried to indulge in all-consuming urge to kill when you don't have opposable thumbs? Or hands? Or anything other than a bread slot? You'd have a lot of pent-up anger too.
I'd like to change the subject.
Well, since I can't kill you, I guess I have to listen to your inane questions.
I'm almost too afraid to ask what your function is.
You should be afraid! I am the scourge of all small appliances, and the boogeyman that keeps lesser toasters awake at night.
So, you murder toasters.
Not just murder! I tear them apart and render them down to their base components! Once their guts are spilled, you can do with them what you like.
What else do you do?
You want some weapon schematics? I can show you some fucking weapon schematics! You want a superheated Saturnite Power Fist? I can hook that shit up!
I'll keep an eye out for a Saturday Night Power Fist then.
You find one, you bring it on back here, and we'll burn this mother down!
Right.
Yes! Flee before my terrible power!
Ooh, yeah, dig that sweet music. Damn, it's good to be back online.
What's your purpose here?
Dig, I'm an acoustical wizard, kid. Old Doc Mo used me to prototype his sonic weapon designs. Get me a good sample base to work from, and I can whip up a wave that makes Jericho look like a kazoo.
Alright. Seem pretty laid back for an engine of destruction.
Why not? Ain't like I got nothing to prove. Not like that toaster. Now that boy got some issues.
Can you do anything like that for me?
Got yourself a sonic emitter, don't you? Thought so. Bring that old thing on in here and bring me some sound samples and I'll make that baby sing. Or scream. If that's what you want.
I want to recalibrate the emitter.
Bring on, Daddy. Let's spin some grooves.
Really? I thought I had Tarantula. Whatever. Tarantula's a good one, because it explodes things. Whoa. What the fuck is that? Ow. Ow, ow, ow. What the fuck is going on? Ow. That hurt to listen to. Hold on a minute. Ow. What the fuck was that? Weird.
That's it. Our first
Mugs?
recording
Why do you want
is
mugs?
the folk tunes
Why do you
that
want
were
mugs,
in
huh?
the
You
folk
some kind of
tunes
sick
archive
mug hoarder? Oh,
producing
God, give me the
memory.
coffee cup, please. It's sitting there in your
That was
back,
Trip
taunting me.
and the reason I chose
Sorry.
that to be the first song to put in the
Sorry.
archive is that
I got a little
that's the
carried
first
away.
song that I learned.
It's just all those
I learned it
goddamn
at
dirty
the folk
dishes
school,
out there with
and
no one to clean them. It
my
breaks my
stepmom
heart.
taught it to me.
You seem really obsessed with mugs.
Of
So
course
that was
I'm
the very first
obsessed.
song I ever
They
learned.
made me this way. You think I
The
don't
first time I
know
played
how
it,
crazy I
played it
sound?
pretty
Of course
slow
I do. They
and simple,
programmed me to
and
know
I
that
sped it up and kept it
too.
simple.
They
The third time I
made me
played it
just to
through, I
torture
started
me.
to put
But you
some
know, it's the
drop
neglect that
summing
hurts the most.
and
Hey,
I
everybody,
learned
let's
that
turn
after I had known
ourselves
the
into
song for
robot
about a year.
brains in jar.
I learned the drop summing
Do you
stuff
know
from the David
how many
Holt
coffee
video.
cups giant robot
So
brains
this
in
is adding
jars
on to what
use
I
on a
already
daily basis?
learned with that.
Not fucking many!
And around the combine, speak up and Reverend God do man.
Can you do anything else?
Anything else, he asks. Like I don't long for the chance to be more than an erotic busboy. If you must know, at one point Dr. Mobius programmed me to manufacture electronic components in my central chassis. That module got corroded when the toaster spilled hot crumbs down my vent stove. If you find a backup somewhere, I could maybe do that for you.
What do you do with the mugs?
I'm supposed to keep them clean. Oh, God! The thought of all those dirty dishes out there makes me crazy. Most of them are probably beyond saving now. The only thing left is break them down and process them for raw materials. I guess you could have those.
Let's change the subject.
Is the new subject mugs?
The new subject mugs. Here, take whatever you want.
Oh, sweet, sweet fulfillment! I'll break these down for you just as fast as I can.
Process coffee mugs and dishes. 3 coffee mugs removed. Wonder glue. Okay, so he turns the glass into glue. And syringes. Hey, nice.
How about that? Old auto doc's back online. Well, all right. Come here. Let's have a look at you. Well, he ain't the fittest horse that ever ran a race, but he don't appear in immediate danger of keeling over. I can patch you up if you want.
Sure.
Rightly so, I should think. All right, then. Let me just fire up the old interface for you.
Swap body parts. Interesting. Right now we just need some healing. Surprisingly, Sync is the best player home. Yes, until that audio glitch happens, which I don't know why it does. That audio glitch was awful.
Oh, God, look at you. You're filthy.
I think it has some weird voice modulation that's causing audio issues. Seem kind of worried about dirt. What's wrong?
Oh, it's just so unsanitary. Do you know how many germs are in 1 cubic centimeter of dirt? 70, 100, gajillion.
Yes, Hanasa?
You want that getting washed down your gullet day in and day out? I didn't think so.
Okay.
Come back anytime you want to drink.
Do you like turkey? Yes.
Please.
Okay, this radio is starting to get a little obnoxious. Go back to the regular one.
Ah, good day, citizen. Library Processing Unit 232.7 is online and ready to eradicate sedition.
Eradicate sedition.
Of course, citizen. That's my duty and sole joy in life. All those books from before the war, full of seditious, treasonous, complicated thoughts. Just dump them in and lickety-split. I'll have them pumped, scrubbed clean, and pressed out again clean and white and sedition-free.
So you make blank books? What's the point of that?
Blank books are better for the mind, citizen. Real science by real men in lab coats has proved that introducing outside thoughts confuses the brain. Blank books encourage the reader not to question, but to blindly and zealously accept what's put in front of you. Also, I suppose you could use them to keep a journal.
Oh, you were using that mod. I like quite a lot, mainly because I have because you have Duke Nukem playing as DJ playing 8-bit renditions of famous songs. I haven't really listened to the 8-bit one much. I'm not really that big into chiptunes, I guess. I mostly got it for the little like radio shows because I love old radio shows. I listen to them a lot when doing artwork, like off stream. Those books are the last legacy of the time. You can't just stone them.
That sounds dangerously seditious.
Dangerously seditious.
If the indoctrination module was installed, I'd take care of that for you. Sadly, that system was cut for budget concerns, so you'll have to perform your own indoctrination. Now, to begin with, you'll need a cage that can fit over your head and a sack of mole rats.
A sack of mole rats. Can you do anything other than processing books?
What good is eradicating sedition if the malcontents have ready access to the means to make more, citizen? I could also process pencils and clipboards. Wait a moment. Pencil processors offline? Pencil processors offline? Apologies, citizen. It seems traitors have absconded with that module. If you can find a backup copy of the module, I will happily eradicate your ability to create seditious literature. Stay loyal, citizen.
Oh yes, old radio shows. Okay, Dame, tell us where the money is. Someone kicks the door in. Spokes Malone and the Spooky Boys. Yeah. Actually, it's usually the old comedy shows that I find amusing. Ah, plants are growing nice. Pinto beans. And these will regrow eventually. From this, I can make homemade Sunset Sparspadidly. I prefer to use these to make some stim packs. Interesting. Alright, who else is there that I need to talk to? Oh yeah, the light switches.
That was a nice little, cat nap. How long was I out?
Lady killer. Oh my. Light switches. I must be dreaming. Let's see what happens.
Oh, you. I bet you say that to all the light switches.
I don't know, I don't make a habit of talking to light switches. You're...
Now I know you're flirting with me, and it's working. Why don't you take this to remember me by?
Meeting people. What is she insinuating? She gave me a magazine about talking to people. Wow, okay.
I was Dr. Mobius's personal assistant. We were studying, oh shoot, what was it? Oh yeah, lightning. No, wait, lighting. That's right, how lighting affects human interaction.
And what did you find out?
Oh, it was super exciting. It turns out that some pretty colored lights can make you way better at talking to people.
You know what I don't get? In Stalker, you can get rid of rads in many ways, but only in Fallout you can only use rad away. Quite odd. You could use Siggies or something like they do in Stalker. Well, I think the premise for rad away in Fallout is that it's like some sort of substance that's like intravenous, and it binds to the radioactive bullshit in one's body and is then excreted out like it's a diuretic as well. You're basically shitting out all the radioactive bullshit. Yeah, it's not like just something you drink. It's an intravenous sort of thing. And in lore, it's supposed to be like a very prone to make you have to pee and poop your brains out.
Oh, I love to, sweetie. but I don't have the programming.
Diarrhea, maybe not. Yeah.
You'd have to go out into that nasty old crater and find the...
Control that one too.
Oh, her.
Oh,
Trust
her.
me, sweetie, you're better off not thinking about that frigid little ice queen.
Sounds like there's bad blood between you, or circuits.
That bitch. She thinks she's so much better than everybody just because her processors are bigger. Ooh, she makes me so mad.
Okay, forget I said
What do
anything.
you think, sweetie?
Is that Jello sweet? Jello sweet? I don't know. Alright, we go.
Oh my. Partial functionality restored. That's less than optimal. Oh, well, that's very sweet of you. Maybe one of these nights...
Oh, jealousy, okay.
Discuss theorems.
Alright.
Me too. Hope you can keep up.
You think it would have a hole when you use stim packs? Same spot every time. Programmer's Digest. Alright, what function do you serve?
Dr. Mobius and I were deeply involved in research on the ability of light levels to enhance human cognition.
What were the results?
We observed a fascinating phenomenon. Certain spectra of visible light actually increased cognitive function and reasoning ability. Of course, Dr. Mobius's brain is so big already, we had a hard time measuring it.
Turn those lights off.
As much as I'd love to, I'm
Okay. Yes. We gotta go back in the crater and get part 2 of the All My Friends Have Off switches. Where we find all the little doodads for them. Or influencing. Alright. Now, something I want to try. I want to see how many checks I can pass. I ran ahead and did a quick save here. So I got the dog bowl from Boros. Actually, let me try... A pillow, $12.99 a pillow. Well,
Breaking news! Talking lobotomite arrives in Think Tank. Its purpose, unknown, undefinable. Its presence here, impossible.
Dr. O, correct.
Oh? Oh, yes. I'm not going to bother correcting you. At least you got the doctor part correct. I can be grateful for that, at least. Stop the presses! Just in from my eye monitors. Is that Rob Kotek on your arm? It is! What's your agenda bringing that in here?
Agenda? I don't have an agenda, not with Robco anyway.
Oh, really? You have their tech on your arm. How dare you bring Rob Kotek in here? What are you showing off? How great Robert House and his big company are? Ooh, we can make Securitrons better than any robot those geniuses at Big Mountain could make, and they'll last 1,000 years. You're lucky I don't have hands to tear that dip boy off your arm, or feet to stomp on its stupid metal guts. Ugh. Damn Robco.
I don't think I'll worry you by telling you what House and his robots have been up to since.
Worry about House? Why would I do that? Hope he died alone in a dingy room, streaming his last remaining bodily fluids into jars. And him and his dirty girl bots. Don't even get me started on those filthy biological catcher's mitts.
Calm down, just want to ask some questions.
Fine. Ask.
Let's see. What do you do here?
All things robotical. You see a robot? I made it. See a broken robot? I made it that way. Deconstructed it down to parts. I have a gift with machines. I can render anything inoperable. Preserve them in a non-functioning state.
Breaking machines, that is.
Who asked you? You just wait until a working machine threatens you, and you'll wish I was around.
It just breaks things. You have another name?
Yeah, I do. It wasn't always O. I just took that one by default because sometimes it's easier to accept a mistake as long as the purpose works. I don't want to get into it. It's a sore topic with me. Makes my gel ripple.
Ah, fucking speech checks. I hate them. Let's see. Does he still have the option? Okay, yeah, he still has the option, okay. Because sometimes when you fail or can't meet a speech check, it just completely goes away and it's kind of bullshit. I always hated that. Okay, so we're doing an invest in speech. Unfortunately, but speech in Fallout New Vegas is incredibly overpowered to the point of breaking the game. You play a high speech and bartered character, you basically win the game without lifting a finger. Okay. Well, let's continue our, escapades. Excellent. Caution. Just before, have you played any of the Wasteland games? I don't think I have. I've heard the names of them before, I just don't know exactly how they play. Oh. Night Stalkers. Lovely. Okay, if you want to play Wasteland 3, it's the most streamlined, best RPG that you artists who will like it. Okay. Depends on its systems. Depends on its systems. Ooh. Goopies. Radioactive goo all over the place. Oh, shit. Really, missed all 3 shots. Jeez Louise. Come on. Hit! Hit! Thank you. Jeez. God, my luck with VATS is terrible. So I have tried aiming, but the sights on this gun are awful. The stupid, thick peep sight reminds me of the FAMAS. Okay, first combat says like XCOM somewhat. You get percentages in your covers, your special nades, consumables, so on. Plus a strike meter, which you can spend hitting certain body parts. You see that flamethrower enemy, strike against a backpack. Okay. We'll have to see sometime. I'm not really hurting for games to play on stream at the moment, but if I want something, I guess I could give it a try and see how it is. Play, get your evil and good parts plus some skill checks here and there. It might be one of those games that I play before I stream it, though. Good luck on the streams, dude. Yeah. I appreciate it. Let's see. Where are we going? Corrosive glove. Cool. Oh, what? Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, you don't just get to spawn right behind me? Okay, hey, headshots are lethal against him. Excellent. Oh. Oh, okay. Now our luck comes. Whew. Alright, we're good.
The Cazador Preserve and the Night Stalker splicing facilities are strangely quiet. Too quiet.
Too quiet. Oh my goodness. Oh, 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 no, no. So many beasts. Bad dogs. Oh, jeez. Okay. Unfortunately, no demo. Let's see here. Can... Nope. Nothing super amazing. Well, maybe I'll see about it. I don't know. As per usual, it can always be posted in suggestions channel on Discord, and I'll take a look-see at it. Maybe pick it up on sale or something. Really?
Put down your weapons. Multiple failures detect.
Any video out there?
Attention.
Jeez Louise. It's way too hard, does too much damage. See, most of the things with this mod are pretty well balanced, but the Protectrons are unnecessarily buffed. They're already tanky as shit. They don't need to be super damaging on top of that. Prime and powder, or primer and powder pack, what? Okay. Salient green, nice. Oh no, I don't want to take all of that. Oh, crap. Oh well. Oh well. Someone with a radio trying to get out here or something? Interesting. Saturday Night Fist. I don't have unarmed skills, so that's not very useful for me. There's a Burmy in chat if anyone wants it. Right. More Brock flowers. That's good.
I wouldn't even use binary to describe my exponential hatred for you.
Some more Xander roots. Good stuff, good stuff. Oh no, it's gonna be the sneaky. I don't know if I want to do the sneaky thing yet. I like how you can clearly see a helmet that was intended for the stealth suit, but you never... it doesn't actually come with one. It's a real shame. Not gonna grab it yet, though. There is a way to cheese parts of the stealth thing. Anti-grav woofers. Please equip the stealth suit Mark 2. Okay, maybe I have to get it then. There's also this place, which looks very weird. Another protonic and versal axe. Some psycho. Oh, this place is hard to look at. Yeah. Just very bright. Oh, Chinese OPSEC training manual. Nice. Go ahead and use that, because that'll improve stealth a little bit. Sneak increased by 3. What is my sneak total? 40? I mean, that's not terrible. I suppose we'll get the suit and go ahead. Well, actually, what time are we looking at? Yeah, sure, we'll go ahead and grab it. I didn't want to grab that thing, but I grabbed it. The boots. Chest. I think that's everything. Cosmetics, Simpacks. Okay. It's a pretty good suit. Well, except for how fucking heavy it is, apparently. Shit. No. Here, we'll eat a bunch of steak. There we go.
Hello. It's nice to meet you. Who can I hide you from today?
Ah, yes. Stealth suit waifu.
We're okay on Stimpaks.
She talks. Shovel. No, I need that to dig graves.
Medic supplies adequate.
And it has this cool stealth field generation.
Data collection array online. Please use the terminal below to begin user synchronization.
So that's the testing facility down there. More Stimpaks. I'm gonna need a lot more. There's other things we can get. So basically the idea is that you start the test down there, and then you go back upstairs, pretty much. And you come through here, and then you just jump down into the final area, because that's the final area. That's how you can cheese it. I'm looking for... Aha! It's on this terminal. There we go. Resla Royal. Mentat Chow, okay. All those. While we're here, we may as well start working on it. We still need the antenna and whatnot.
This is the basic stealth test. The robots will be looking for us, but we won't let them find us.
That's correct. We won't let the robots find us, and the reason for that is because we're gonna cheat. Like, they lock this, but if you have high enough lockpicking...
Test data processed. Firmware updated to version 1.1. Boot damping sensors online. Mean robot bugs. Mean robot bugs.
Mean robot bugs. Okay, we need lots of... Yeah. What did we unlock that's new? Convert blank magazines to back to books. Okay. Let's see. Damaged books you pick up become blank magazines, which you can copy existing skill. Oh, okay, cool. Penny collectors, no. Ooh. Additional 2 points of strength and sunlight and slowly regenerate health. Huh. Grim Reaper Sprint is also pretty good. Hmm. Computer Whiz is probably the most useless perk in the game, or one of the most useless. I could just get another point. Ow!
Ready, steady, fighting.
Ow! What the fuck?
Injecting stim pack.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying to get out and suddenly Robo Scorpion spawn. That's the thing that I honestly hate most about this DLC. It's how enemies just spawn. They just instantly appear around you, and I hate that. It is kind of a weird DLC in the sense that it also offers some of the most overpowered shit you can get in the game. Like the best player home. As well as just the stuff you can get out of it is absurd. Okay. But that'll probably be where we end it for today. Tomorrow we'll be continuing right where we leave off here. Be there or be square. Or be both. Because we all know it's hip to be square. Oh yeah, there's a lot of reward thing here. Cool. It's bobby pins. There's bobby pins. Aren't there billy pins? I'm gonna go to sleep now. I'll make some pics tomorrow and post them to Discord. Plus, there'll be theory and suggestions. Cool. Excellent, excellent. I'll fix my PC now. Alright. I hope you get it figured out. Alright, let's find someone to raid out to here. If you want some extra Dawn marks, stick around for the raid, and we'll see who we can raid out to. Who's online? Let's see. What we got here? Am I going to manage to do if it doesn't work? Sure. Yeah, maybe I don't know exactly, but maybe we'll figure something out. Who knows? I can raid you guys into Neiman CZ. He's playing Underground 2, and I do love Need for Speed Underground 2. It's one of my favorite racing games. Probably my second favorite racing game, right after Most Wanted. Where'd you guys? To Neiman. Pepega. But thank you all for coming. Thank you all for hanging out. I hope you guys enjoyed this story today. We'll be continuing these readings on Saturday. For I don't know, I guess as long as I feel like it. I do at least want to finish this book and then maybe start on the second book. That'd be nice. But with that said, we'll see you guys, or I will see you guys tomorrow, continuing New Vegas. And yeah, that said, much love, many hugs, many kisses, and well, bye-bye!